Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to GameFace, episode 434 on Sifted Games at SIFTD.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of Sifted, and your host for the next couple hours of awesome video game discussion with my buddy, Mr. Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
Oh, not much. Did people hear the meowing?
Yeah, before we started.
Turn the mics up. Right.
It is interesting how she is a part of the show for weeks and weeks, and then she'll disappear for a couple months. It is interesting how she does that.
She has rotations. Like she'll sit. Like this week, she's been on the couch in the front room the whole time. I don't see her for hours. Sometimes she sits like on my legs all day, and she won't go away. She picks different places to be in the house.
I saw one of the comments on the YouTube version of the show this week was like, it's the Luna episode. Because she was in it like the whole time last week. And then she knows when the lights come on. It's so fun. I think she can probably tell the different tone in our voices or something.
Maybe.
And then she's like, oh, it's on, and I'm going to get on the table. It's pretty awesome. How are you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a good week. There's so many good games to play right now. And we're going to talk about a couple more of them. In fact, we're going to talk about a game today that came out like a week and a half ago that's sitting at like a 92 Metacritic. And for some reason, no one's talking about the game. We're going to do it right here on GameFace. There's crazy news this week. Like, we have some slow news weeks sometimes. Not this week.
And then, like, I don't think we were fast enough to get the Randy news today.
Which Randy news?
I read it this morning. Maybe it happened.
Oh, the Randy Pitchford news, where he's like, if you're a big enough fan,
you'll make it happen. It's just like, bro, did we learn nothing from the Diablo Immortal thing? Don't you guys have phones?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Well, to be fair, he's not in. Everyone's going after him because they think it's going to cost $80. But
he doesn't know.
He's not in control of any of that.
But that's still the wrong.
Yeah, he's taking the wrong tact in dealing with fans. I'm sure he's frustrated. He's like, I don't want to charge $80, but I can't stop it.
It's not his call.
It's like that's one of the things you sign up for when you sign up with a publisher. Like they're going to have control over stuff you're not going to have control over in exchange for them giving you a ton of money to make your piece of art. So. That's kind of the trade-off. But yeah, this week was a huge week of news. Just crazy stuff happening.
It's a pretty good rule of thumb that if you ever say real fan, you're wrong.
Right.
Like you're probably saying something stupid.
You're right. Never, ever say real fan.
No.
Because the next thing you say is going to be real dumb.
Yeah.
And you're going to get raked over the coals for it. Yeah. It's interesting that people like Randy Pitchford and people who have been in the industry for so long can still make blunders like this, like constantly.
Well, especially because, like, I know a lot of people were saying, you see people in the comments on things about this story in particular, but like, I don't trust that guy. I don't think. I'm like, well, yeah, he's a fucking con man. I mean, he's kind of.
He gives off that vibe.
He has a snake oil salesman, but he's also a magician.
Carnival barker.
He's got a carny aspect to him. But he's a magician. You know, it's one of his big things.
Right. No, we're not joking. He is literally a magician.
He's literally a magician. He's the nephew of one of the most well-known magicians of the early 20th century, the great Cardini.
Yeah.
He owns the Magic Castle here in L.A. It's a big part of his life. He has a magic theater stage in his house.
I don't think anybody watching right now is surprised to learn this.
No, absolutely not.
They're all like, that adds up.
But but that's what makes it more mystifying to me, because of all the people in the game industry, even who have these public-facing roles as the heads of these companies and teams. Of anyone who should know better, a magician should know that when serving bait, presentation is everything.
Yeah,
like you have to be able to control what the spectator is seeing.
That's true,
and that is not praxis right there. Like that is a bad patter.
It is.
It should not be what's happening there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm disappointed in Randy as someone who's like basically has one of his expertise is in fooling people.
Right.
And he should be better. He should be better at that.
Better at fooling people. You're right.
Because magic, in a very real sense, is just like fancy lying.
It's sleight of hand.
You're
fooling people.
And like I would expect Randy to be better at that.
He should be.
Which maybe gives away how frustrated he is with the situation.
He may have just given up and been like, throwing my hands up.
I'm sure dealing with Take-Two on that kind of thing is infuriating.
I would also venture to guess that the game's $80.
Yeah, I would.
And he knows it already.
Yeah,
and he's not his. He's fighting it, and he can't change it, and he's getting frustrated, and he's like, "F it." Basically.
And that was the closest he could basically get to preparing everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. He didn't do a good job.
No, talking about how you worked extra hours at the fucking Tasty Freeze or whatever the hell he was talking about. I was like, bro, like,
oh man.
Also, it's Borderlands 4. It's like we could just go back and play one of the other ones if we don't want to pay $80 for it. Or wait 6 months.
Get the same experience, basically.
Right. Or wait 6 months and get it for $30, which has been the case for the last couple of Borderlands.
Yeah, yep. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to GameFace. As you see down below there, we are supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. In fact, while you're hearing this from me, just like the show right now, or share the show, or leave a comment on the show if you're watching this on YouTube. Just do it right now. And after you're done with that, head to patreon.com/SIFTD and give us a pledge. For just $4 a month, you get all our content early. And that is like 4 days for this show, a week for Pactor Factor, a week for Ask Shane Anything. You get a good gap there. It's worth the money to get the early access. We'd appreciate it very much. If you can't do that, we'll be going through our chat in a second here and thanking people for subscribing with Twitch Prime. Basically, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can give us a free $2.50 every month for free. You're already paying for it. It's a part of your Amazon Prime subscription. Don't let Amazon keep that money. Give it to us. We can use it to keep this show going. We'd really appreciate it. And like I said, if you don't have money, you don't have Amazon Prime, just like the show right now. Share the show on social media. All that stuff matters. We'd appreciate it very, very much. Not a lot of housekeeping this week for the show. It was a slow week of game releases, but a big week of news. So today's show is probably going to be slanted. I would argue that our lightning round news segment is going to be longer than normal today. Looking at the rundown, I can guarantee it's going to be longer than normal.
Yeah. I tried to play the Outlaws DLC.
The Star Wars Outlaws?
Yeah, the pirate stuff. But it turned out that only unlocks after you finish the main story, which I had not done yet. So I ended up spending all the time I had finishing the main story of Outlaws.
Oh, did you finish it?
I did, but I didn't have any time to get into the DLC.
How'd you feel about the ending without spoiling anything?
It was good.
Yeah.
It worked.
I thought it held up all the way to the end.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's a heist picture with the requisite twists and turns. I thought the post-credit scene was actually very nice.
It's probably a much better game now than when I played it.
Oh, it is a much better game. The fact that you can shoot from the bikes, from the speeder
That's
bike,
a big deal, yeah.
The big deal. You can, what was the fact that you can kill guys with different, like the backpacks that the enemies wear are explodable, and like there's different ways to take them out now. The fact that you can keep...
No forced stealth, right?
No, you can. I mean, I don't know because I haven't. Yeah, that's all.
You
in
already
the beginning.
passed it.
That's
probably.
all in the beginning. But like, there is no point in the game where you cannot go loud.
Good.
And just choose to shoot things up, which is good because I'm much better at that. And
I enjoy it more.
Yeah, and it's. I actually did that. I had to go into an Imperial area, and I was sneaking around. I was like, you know what? Fuck this, and I just started, and I killed
everybody.
40 people, and then they sent like a shuttle came down and landed, and like reinforcements came down there, and like I hid, and in the meantime I was able to hack my wanted level gone. I was because I was right next to a computer, so and so they're not, so they land and they're not looking for me anymore, but they they see 40 dead people, and they're like, what happened here? And like they go through the whole rigmarole of like, got a dead trooper here, we got to look around, where is it?
They completely forgot what their mission was.
They don't know why they're there because I erased the death mark thing. So I'm just like, bang, boom, 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 and then no one had a chance to call in, so I just got to explore the Imperial base on my, in peace, surrounded by stormtrooper
dead
corpses.
Stormtroopers.
And
that sounds great.
And you know what? Every stormtrooper corpse stayed.
It never disappeared.
No, none of them disappeared.
So there was like 60 of them there?
Like 60 of them. They're everywhere.
That's great.
But one of the big changes that's very, very good to me is you can keep the weapons you pick up now.
Oh, that is nice.
So you can keep one weapon and it stays with you permanently.
Oh, that's great.
She never drops it. She like tucks it behind her back and it sits like on her belt.
Wow.
And you can keep it and never use it, and you can get on the ship and fly to another planet and still
have it.
I kept one of the Death Troopers blasters through the entire final mission and into the post game.
Wow.
And no problem.
That's a big deal.
A big change. It makes like your loadout way more versatile. Just because like the Stormtrooper blaster is just a more powerful, better gun than anything you can upgrade your normal pistol into.
Also allows you to be a little more spontaneous as the player.
For sure. And you don't feel bad about picking stuff up and not using it properly or whatever.
Right.
It's a big change. So it is a better game than what launched.
Yeah.
And
so if you're someone who waited for Star Wars Outlaws, now it's probably the time to jump in.
Yeah, the early adopters was not the call on this one. This is a better game. If you have not played Star Wars Outlaws, go when the next time it's on sale, pick up the gold edition with the DLC pass. Because the DLC, I play the Lando DLC, the wild card DLC,
which was just like
it's like a card game thing. Yeah. I was hoping to be more of like a cruise ship murder mystery sort of like betrayal, but it really is just like a bunch of card games, which I like that card game, so it's not bad. But it was just like, I think that, and I guess the new one's more like 5 hours, and there's a little more to do in it. But I think they're nice. Like the Lando DLC is a nice like addition to the main game to play while you're playing the main story. And the Hondo thing seems like a nice epilogue.
Yeah, because you have to finish.
You have to finish the game to get to that. They're not really big reasons to return to the game after the fact, but I think playing the full game with them incorporated, already out, will be a very nicely rounded experience, I would say.
Yeah. And
Hondo is just, if you've never seen Hondo Onaka in like the animated stuff or in the Disneyland ride, he is a very fun character. He is a smuggler pirate, like everything comes out of his mouth is a lie most of the time, but he's like kind of got the heart of gold thing, and like he genuinely likes the people he tricks and rips off, like,
and feels genuinely guilty about it.
No, but he does genuinely like the people.
He's just a sociopath.
He's like, it's like, no, it's just what I do, my friends. Nothing personal about it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I recommend buying the game at launch. So now that it's even better, I recommend it again.
Yeah, as someone who was underwhelmed by it at the time, I think it's a much better game now.
Yeah.
And it really is just walking around those areas and seeing all, and it actually looks better and runs better now. Like they did something with the lighting a couple patches ago that broke everything.
I remember that. Yeah.
And it didn't run on my computer.
Yeah.
It was like a slideshow, but they fixed that and everything looks great now. It's visually a lot more consistent. There's a lot less weird glitchy things here and there. It's like things stop bouncing, or there was corpses don't.
Some of
bounce
that stuff was kind
weird.
of fun.
Some it's fun, but it feels much more grounded and tangible now.
Yeah.
And it really is very little like walking around some of those really crowded areas in there and feeling like you're part of this day.
I said that from day one, especially about the game. Yeah.
Especially if you're coming off the Andor thing, which also has a lot of that to it. Like you're talking about one of the things that I love about one of the things that will hook me on Star Wars is in modern Star Wars is little glimpses of what it's like to live in that world
me too.
As a regular person.
Yep.
Like in the Andor stuff, the big
that's what I love about
final Andor things. There's scenes where I'm like, oh, this are really tense things, but also we get to see what a hospital looks like in Star Wars. Like that's really cool.
We've never seen stuff like that.
Like I love, and this game's full of that. Like,
I am about to dive and dig through Andor Season 2 over here. Probably tomorrow I will start it, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, Andor's great. Here's my proclamation on Andor as a whole series. The whole series.
Yeah.
Andor is the best Star Wars side project of any medium ever made.
I believe that.
The only things
I believe that about Season 1.
The only things that are better than Andor in all of Star Wars are a couple of the movies.
Right. Oh, I agree. 1,000%.
Because to me, the core of Star Wars is Yoda lifting the ship out of the swamp. Yeah. It's that mystical sort of that sort of like
that cross of science and mysticism.
Right, but that space opera thing. Yeah. But being able to take that and tangent off it into this exploration of why revolution happens and why fascism is bad, because apparently we need that now.
A reminder,
phenomenal. Like that's exactly how you take this premise and spin it off into something completely different and still make it so now you've got this great thing where it's like you've got this great show and this pretty good movie called Rogue One.
I liked Rogue One.
I like it. It's just I did a rewatch where I went over to my friends and we watched the last episode of Andor again and went right into Rogue One and A New Hope, and it's like that's neat because visually it's all completely thematic, completely visually consistent, but instead you just sort of watch everybody get much dumber over the course of about a week in universe. It's like it's just
it's hard to make all those loose ends tie.
Yeah, Rogue One is as I've said before, it's got a lot of structural problems, it's got a lot of script problems and character issues, but it ends with 30 minutes of smashing Star Wars toys together, and by the time they cut the Star Destroyer in half with the other Star Destroyer, you're like, yeah, Jyn Erso wasn't really a character in Act 2, but who fucking cares? Look what's happening. Look at that.
I hear you.
I guess it's a lot of fun. It's opposed to Solo, which has a lot of the same problems and ends with 3 people arguing in an office.
Yeah, I didn't like that film
at all. Not as compelling.
Let's check in with you guys in chat and see what y'all are up to. Mighty Pony Girl says Luna is glaring at me. She's right up into the camera, man. She's right all there, over it. Wow, lots of chat going on already for the show. Let's see. The hype train already on level 5. What's going on here? What have you guys done?
I'm talking about Andor. That's what gets you to
apparently. That's awesome. Thank you guys. I can't see who subscribed with Twitch Prime underneath the hype train banner right there. It won't scroll up any further. Whoever that is, thank you. I'm sorry to have missed you.
It might go away in a second.
Yeah, maybe in a second.
Click on the banner.
I did.
See, click on the. Oh no, that's the that thing just
it.
opens that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, whoever you are. Thank you for Twitch Prime though. JM Rain 99, thank you as well. Let's see, everyone saying hello here. Chevelle Man 1979, thank you for Twitch Prime. Appreciate that very much. Justin Horman, as always, subscribing at tier 3. You're the man. Thank you. Let's see, Retro Modern Gamer. Except 2K is selling $50 for Mafia Old Country. Yeah. I mean that. Maybe that tells you that they are just trying to get their investment back on Borderlands 4.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Borderlands 4. I mean, you think Borderlands 4 is probably more of a value than Mafia. Mafia is an offline single-player linear game. Borderlands is theoretically something you'll play for a year.
Yeah, and development. My guess is development for Borderlands 4 was way longer than.
And they got to support
Mafia.
servers, and they got they're going to do all the shift key shit. There's a lot of support to that.
Yep.
And you imagine there's probably a whole season or two of DLC in the pipeline.
Yep, absolutely. Well, here is why we are at hype level 5 already. Is because of Khalib Twalai. Thank you, Khalib Twalai, gifting all these subs to our crew here in chat. That's awesome. Thank you again. Swan Senpai says, I got it for €25. We'll play it after Shadows. All right.
I think
Eric
they're talking about Expedition there.
I think they're talking about Outlaws, right? Star Wars Outlaws?
Maybe.
I think so.
Oh, yeah, they're talking about this is why playing games day one is the worst way.
Yeah. Swan Senpai is a Clone Wars kid. Hondo is why I picked up the game.
Yeah.
JM Rain, gifting all these tier 1 subs. That's the other reason we're on level 5 of the hype train. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate that. Andy T. Monahan, if the sequels and the Acolytes hadn't happened, more people would be interested. Bad Batch, unfortunately, didn't get a lot of attention also when it came out.
Where was that? I didn't. Oh, that was
Andy T. Monahan.
Yeah. Bad Batch. I didn't think Bad Batch was very interesting. I didn't catch me. Also, 2 of the sequels are great. Like the 3rd sequel sucks. That's it. The 3rd sequel sucks, and I thought the Acolyte was fine.
Yeah.
Like the only Star Wars that I thought was really bad in the Disney era is Rise of Skywalker, and I think Solo's boring.
Yeah.
And I thought Book of Boba Fett was just.
I never even watched it.
Just awful. I mean,
everyone told me it was terrible.
the 3 episodes that are like Mandalorian season 2.5 are pretty good, but like the rest of it is just
I love Boba Fett,
nothing.
and I still didn't watch it because of you.
Good.
You told me it was terrible. Commander Fett, if you like Star Wars, I would bump the score of Outlaws up by 1. It's so much fun to goof off in Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that whole other element to it if you're a Star Wars fan, for sure. Lordian, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub to Mars Attack.
Go up a bit. Go back up. Swan Senpai, Andor. I didn't watch past episode 1, didn't grab me. First off, the first 2 episodes of Andor are pretty slow.
They are.
Give it to the 3rd episode.
It is really good,
3rd episode where Andor is one of the best TV shows ever made.
It really is. Go give it
without
another
any
chance,
question.
Man.
I'm not even talking about Star Wars. I'm saying it's one of the best TV shows I have ever watched.
Seriously, like you're right. It does. It's setting it up.
No, the first 2 episodes are slow, 100%.
Yeah,
and you're like, what is this? And then the 3rd episode, it's intentional though, because the 3rd episode, when everything jumps off on that planet, Ferrix, it's in comparison to how slow and boring that city has been up till then. And now all of a sudden it's full of stormtroopers and all this shit's going on. You're like, oh my god, the difference. Like,
go watch it and go try it.
Try it again.
Man. You're really missing out.
Make it to the prison arc. The prison arc is like nothing else.
Yeah. MHG Immortan Joe, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Erebus Jones says K2SO is such a great droid character in the same vein as HK44, hilarious psychopath.
Yeah. Well, he's I don't think K2SO isn't a psychopath, but he is he just says what comes to his mind.
Yeah.
The last 3 episodes of season 2 are when he is in there. It's the last year before Rogue One, and it's like, man, they should have given a whole season to that final year to set everything up and get to it, because K2SO is such a grim show, and then all of a sudden you've got this droid saying hilarious shit,
right?
Like, because that's not out of it's not out of universe. It's just it's not like all of a sudden you've got a practical joke on that. He's just different because he has no filter,
right?
And it makes everything very funny.
Yep. Vincent, thank you for
Swan Senpai. You do not need to watch Rogue One, and in fact, I would say you don't. It's better if you haven't seen.
Yeah,
Rogue
you
One.
don't need to see it at all,
because Rogue One happens after the whole series.
Yeah, this sets up Rogue One. Vincent, thank you. It was Jose Holiday who had subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thank you very much, Jose. Khalib Twalai, curious if you like the Legion TV show by comparison.
Yeah, I liked it. I wasn't as high on it as some people were. Rogue One, you don't need any context for Andor. Like Rogue One happens after Andor. There's no reason to watch it.
Yeah.
Watch
Andor is the prequel to Rogue One.
Watch Rogue One after you finish watching Andor.
Yeah. TV Hardy, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Okay. I think that's it from chat. I think we're ready to
the
rock.
context you have is that you've seen the original Star Wars. Like, obviously you're building up to, like...
You know where a lot of
You're
the
building
stuff
up
is
to
headed.
the original Star Wars. Like, that, it's the formation of the rebellion.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, that's all we have for housekeeping. Another reminder, though, obviously, that our 10th anniversary is coming up soon. Still working on all this stuff for that. When I have all that ironed out, I will make sure that I share it with you guys, of course. But with that, I think it's time to get on with GameFace 434. As I said, this is a news-heavy episode because all kinds of big stuff happened this week. And the first thing we're going to lead off with is that Jade Raymond has left PlayStation. Jade
Raymond has left the building.
This is her third job in a row where she did not ship a single game. Mm-hmm. She went from Ubi to EA.
Mm-hmm. Whatever that was.
Got mixed up in the whole Star Wars thing. Motive.
Yeah.
Got mixed up in the whole Star Wars thing. Did kind of ship a game. There was that VR Star Wars starfighting game.
Yeah, she was credited in that.
And I think she does have credit in that.
Yeah.
So to be fair, I guess she did ship one game, but obviously the big Star Wars project that they were working on never been announced, never came to fruition.
To be fair, she ain't the only one that fell into that over there.
And her next job, same deal.
Yeah.
She went to Stadia, was the head of all first-party development at Stadia. Big gig. Again, never released a game, left. Stadia goes out of business.
I fully believe she knew that was doomed and just saw a chance to make some fucking cash.
Some Google money, yeah.
More power, too.
Yeah, Pactor seems to think that she's worth probably 15 to 20 million at this point.
I would track, I think.
Between Ubi and then the other three big U.S. corporate jobs.
Yeah, especially the Stadia thing. I would think she got paid pretty well for that.
I'm sure she got residuals from the first few Assassin's Creed games. That adds up pretty fast.
I don't know how Ubi is with
Actually,
that.
I don't either. I don't know if they do that or not.
That seems unusual. It seemed to be unusual.
In Europe, that may be different for sure. But those three jobs that she's had in the last, 15 years?
Yeah. And if you're investing wisely, like there's a lot of opportunity there.
I do.
She's not hurting.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean, I do feel bad for her on the level of a creative, where you make stuff and nothing ever comes out. You never get to finish it.
But that's also just sort of the nature of the business these days.
Yeah,
especially at that level.
So you guys may remember, or you may not, that she was working on a game called Fair Games for PlayStation. It was a game as a service. It was basically a Robin Hood themed heist shooter where you're stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. According to the story that's making the rounds, they had a private beta or a private alpha a few weeks ago, and the response to that private play session was not good. Mm-hmm. And a few weeks later, she announces her resignation. Matt, what do you think happened?
Well, I do know a number of people who know her and have worked with her. And I poked around at some of them, and it was like, what is it with this lady? Mm-hmm. Like, what is going on? And several of the people that I know who I trust on this all kind of said roughly the same thing, which was Jade knows when to bail out. Mm. And like, I would maybe not expect this company to be around anymore by the end of the year. Like, it sounds like
Haven.
Yeah, whatever. Because
that's the name of her studio.
Tell me the name of this fucking game again.
Fair Games.
Fair Games. I keep going to call it Failsafe.
Also, by the way, they've now removed the
dollar sign is gone. I did see that. That'll save you. Good work. I think this is just kind of gonna get caught up in the whole Sony needs to abandon the game as a service thing on top of the whole like marathon issue right now.
So wait, let's rewind. You believe the people that told you think she knew that things were going south and she just bailed?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't think she was fired or?
No, not for 1 second.
Okay.
I think, or maybe, I mean, it's always possible that she, you can't fire me, I quit,
right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But why would you do that when you get severance?
Yeah.
Like you get a better package if you don't quit. So
severance on that type of a salary.
My
big
right.
deal.
And my belief is like, I'm like, well, maybe she's going off to found the next company so that everybody she left behind has somewhere to land when the house falls down. Whenever this thing either gets canceled or releases and folds.
What do you think has happened behind the scenes to make her feel like she needed to bail? That was different from when she signed on.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't. Neither of us know anything about the internals on that enough, and neither do the people that I talk to.
Yeah.
They don't work for Sony. They don't know anything about this. But it certainly sounds like it's pretty chaotic in there. And I would imagine someone who's been around as long as she has in this business will be able to kind of read the writing on the wall when you're seeing what's happened with the other stuff, and it seems like a good time to get out. Frankly, if you're in that kind of space at Sony, it feels like a good time to leave.
It feels like the bottom line is the game wasn't coming together.
Doesn't seem like it.
And isn't that on her? Because she founded the studio, hired her ringers and people she wanted to work with.
Maybe, but it's very hard to tell anymore. Like, do we believe that Amy Hennig couldn't get a fucking Star Wars game together?
Right, I don't.
Or do we believe that EA fucked with something?
Yeah.
Or do we believe that, again, if it's more than two, it might be you. And at this point, there's so many problems with all these games as a service things going on under Sony. You're beginning to wonder, like, is the common denominator here just Sony?
Well, also, if it's more than two, it could be you, is also Jade.
True.
I mean, this is her third job in a row where she's not produced anything.
Right, but that happens more often than you might think. It just happens to people who aren't names in the industry.
Yeah,
like
CEOs go places.
We only know who she is because Ubi decided to make her the face of the Assassin's Creed stuff because she's attractive, and which is kind of shitty, and it led to some really gross things happening to her.
It did, but it also helped her career, and she's now worth $15 million.
Sure, but there are also people who are worth that amount of money who did the same job she did, who never had to be public targets of ridicule and sexual harassment.
Generally men.
Yes, that too.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't really find anything particularly untoward about Jade here. It's ridiculous that she doesn't get to ship anything, but but it's like, I guess your thing would be like, well, stop signing up with these, pie in the sky live service weirdo project. I mean,
that was never in her wheelhouse.
The fucking gardener could have told us that Stadia was going to flop.
Yeah, she never worked on that. Like, she's never made multiplayer games.
Right, but she's mostly just she's a producer. She's you can produce. I mean, I've never produced a documentary, but I made 2 this year.
Yeah,
it's like it's just about putting all the ducks in a row.
Yeah, her job was to put the pieces in place for the team.
Right. And it sounds like she did, but like if Sony can't decide what they want, then who knows? Like, we're getting nightmare stories out of these Marathon developers right now. Not even about like the scandal from the week that we'll get into later, but like just the fact that like the higher ups both at Bungie and at Sony kept wanting different things from stuff, and I imagine the Concord devs would have similar stories. Like, it sounds like Sony just doesn't know what they want, and they keep trying to like tweak shit. And it almost sounds like Helldivers 2 was a situation. It was a Spider-Verse situation where one of the reasons Into the Spider-Verse turned out so well is Sony, a different division, obviously, but Sony Animation, the Eye of Sauron was on the movie that they thought was going to be their next mega hit.
Right.
And they weren't paying attention to the Spider-Verse because they thought their next mega hit was the Emoji Movie. And so they were basically, Lord and Miller were basically left alone to make this Spider-Man movie, and it turned out to be amazing. And as soon as that eye focuses on you, they start fucking with everything. And so it sounds to me like Helldivers was a Spider-Verse situation where they never thought Helldivers was going to be of any use or value. It was just another one in their catalog, and that, of all ironies, turned out to be their one breakout hit in this space.
Is Helldivers 2 going to end up being the worst thing that ever happened to PlayStation? Because it gave them this false sense of, hey, this is easy.
No, I think, because this was all happening already, I think. Helldivers is too recent for that.
Yeah.
It may have
impacted Sony's decision not to cancel stuff.
Maybe. I mean, it may have been. Maybe if Helldivers wasn't what it was, they would have been more aware of what Concord was walking into. But the Concord was not that long after Helldivers 2. I can't imagine. I can't imagine they were that blinded that fast.
Well, I think it did teach Sony that at least it thought that it could charge $40 for a game as a service.
That's true. And there is an element. I'm not trying to disparage Helldivers here, but I'm just trying to think of it from the point of view of someone who doesn't play games and just runs a company. Maybe that Helldivers 2 comes out and it was like one of their first ones, right? Their first in the wave. Maybe you look at this and you're like, well, if this piece of shit
that's what I'm
can
saying.
Sell,
They're like,
we're bulletproof.
Yeah.
So we can
this is easy.
Maybe it did make them a little overconfident putting Concord out the way they did.
Or just any of the teams that are working on the other dozen games, like maybe giving them more leash than they should have had.
But a lot of this, I mean, clearly the problems with Marathon were there years beforehand. Clearly, and probably the problems with Failsafe were there, whatever they are.
Fair games.
Fair games. See, again, part of the problem is your fucking name.
No, you're right. It's a bad name. Yeah, it really is. They may end up changing the name altogether if they end up releasing it.
Fair Games is a terrible name. It's
Yeah.
worse than the finals.
Yeah.
Because you know what? At least I remember the finals.
Right.
Maybe because they never had a $ at the end of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
what do you think this says about what PlayStation is going to do with this games as a service going forward?
I mean, they should bail out
Like
it's
on all of them,
it's
right?
a fucking blimp on fire is what they should do.
Yeah.
I would completely run.
It feels
and the problem is, like, why aren't you taking any of these? I mean, this is my question for the Concord team for sure. But it's like, these people can make other things.
Yeah.
You could pivot that team to make like a Naughty Dog style game.
Here's what I don't
why
get.
are you throwing all this talent out the
I
window?
said this last week. I'm like, why would you get rid of Firesprite that made Concord and then form this new Team
I don't know.
LFG team? It's like they proved that they could make a good game. People rejected it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't because of their skill or their craftsmanship. It's just the idea didn't resonate, the characters didn't, whatever.
Right.
But it was a quality.
But the game was. There's nothing wrong
Well
with the
produced,
game.
yeah. So
like
get them
everyone on
working on
that team,
something else.
everyone on that team did their job
Yeah,
well.
very well. Yes, I don't know. I feel like if PlayStation is
That's again why I'm always going to look at Sony when things like this happen.
yeah.
Like
If I'm PlayStation and I get to the point where I'm going to Naughty Dog and I'm saying, hey, you guys are awesome, and you've been working on this game for like 2 or 3 years, and you're some of the best people in the industry, and I tell them to cancel that game, you should probably cancel all the other games.
Mm-hmm.
If they couldn't do it up to your standards and couldn't support a game like that post-launch, who the hell else is going to be able to?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell is going on at PlayStation. It is a disaster, Matt. So somehow they've stumbled their way into being the market leader, and now it's like nothing it does matters anymore, so it just makes dumb decision after dumb decision. We're happy that we're going to get 2 first-party PlayStation games this year. It's got to the point where we're like beggars being happy with crumbs. It's like, oh,
What's the other one?
there's Death Stranding and Ghost of Yotei.
Okay, is Death Stranding?
That's coming out next month,
Is that
in June.
that's first party?
Kind of. But it's an exclusive game that they paid for that's only coming to their consoles. We're like, oh my gosh, we're getting 2 games. That's ridiculous. They have conditioned us to accept lapping up anything that they give us. And they're the market leader. Nothing's going to change that. I don't understand what could cause Sony to change its mind on this stuff. It's just it wasted up $500 million on Concord.
Wasted $4 billion on Bungie.
It's nuts what is happening.
Well, remember,
at
like
PlayStation.
one of the justifications for the Bungie purchase and the cost of the Bungie purchase was their expertise on games like
Right.
this.
They're
And it
supposed
turned-
to be the people who shepherded
and-
these across the finish line.
And look, I've been saying that's a dead end from the beginning. I mean, again, I understand why the Bungie purchase was what it was because of what they thought, what they
were gonna
believed,
do.
and what their
Yeah.
plan was. But I think that will probably go down as one of the worst choices in the history of business in video game business.
Billions of dollars for them to keep making Destiny
For nothing.
2? I mean, that's what you're paying for at this point.
And honestly, at this point, you're like, that was probably the smarter thing.
Yeah.
To just let them keep making Destiny 2. It's like maybe you should have made Destiny 3. I don't know. Like, because right now it's all looking pretty bad.
I mean, if you're PlayStation, you
I don't
should be
even know
on
what
all
to-
this crap right now.
I don't even know what to say about Fair Games because we just don't fucking know anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, other than the basics.
That
the
quick little
boilerplate.
thing, it's some kind of extraction thing.
No,
Isn't it?
It's not. It's a heist shooter.
It's like a Payday
It's
thing?
like an MMO heist shooter where there are other heist teams out in the open world and you're competing for bounties, basically. So you're going into rich people's homes, stealing stuff from them, coming back, giving it to the poor, and it's all on this like network where social media is like, oh, look, they just got this big hit from this rich
Well, so it
dude.
still is
Like,
kind of an extraction thing.
a little
Like,
bit.
You're competing.
You have to
for,
get away
Yeah.
after the heist, yeah. So there's that element of it, but
What was it about that idea that made so many of these teams at Sony or maybe Sony themselves think that this was the key?
maybe GTA Online because it kind of started as
I
a
guess.
heist thing. I mean, that's kind of what it is, isn't it? It's a new version of GTA Online.
Sorta. I mean,
As it launched. Because when GTA Online launched, it really was just a heist shooter. And
Yeah.
over time, it has evolved to just turn into Grand Theft Auto Online. It sounds like Fair Games is trying to be what GTA Online was at launch. But who knows, because no one's really seen any gameplay. We still haven't seen a lick of gameplay from the game, Matt. That trailer that we keep running is CG. Mm-hmm. And we never saw a frame of gameplay, and Jade is gone already. It's like, look, I get it. Jade probably does have that sixth sense to know when things are going belly up and it's time to bail or whatever, but she also has to realize that maybe there are some people that bought a PlayStation because they knew that she was working on first party. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So,
you can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not telling her to like make her life crappy because fans bought a PlayStation 5 for her games or anything.
I don't think anybody's buying PlayStations for Jade Raymond.
Really?
No. Like, I mean, as I recall, I like the stuff she makes, and I
many moons ago.
I've met her a few times. She's a nice person.
Yeah. She's actually really awesome.
Yeah, I got nothing but love, but like, I would sure like to play one of her games one day again.
Do you think we'll ever play another Jade Raymond game?
I don't know. Like, we've only got so many years left.
Where is she going? Where do you think she's going to go after
I think
this?
she's going to start another company.
You think she'll start her own?
Again, yeah.
What about her going back to Ubisoft? To become head of development or something, executive job.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? That would make some sense. But like,
that seems to make the most sense.
But you want to talk about tying yourself to a sinking ship,
right? I mean, that's another.
I think if I were, that's an option, but I think I would wait and see how the next 6 months shake out first, which you can probably afford to do.
Well, Assassin's Creed Shadows is selling like gangbusters.
It is, but that's not going to save that whole company.
One game's not going to save a publisher.
No.
Yeah. So
they need 1,000 Assassin's Creed Shadows.
And
they got one.
So Matt, let's say we decide we're going to start our own game development company, SIFTD Games or whatever, and we're going to put our own money in and we're going to do it. Would we hire Jade to lead that?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, but like not in the sense that I don't trust her, but in the sense that I don't know if we need that. I think we can do what she does.
I mean, just the trust part of it. Would you trust her with your own money that you're putting in to build a team and create a game?
Probably.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is about that. I think if you're not a fucking inept leader, I think she'll do her job well. It's just you can only do your job as well as your bosses allow you to. Mm-hmm. And if they're fucking with her team or there's no clear direction on what that needs to be, then that can be, and that's all speculation. I don't know. Maybe she's a giant fuck up. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But like, I have a hard time believing that in comparison to, I know a lot more about how Sony has run their ship than I do about how Jade Raymond runs her ship. Mm-hmm. And all of these failings are right in line with how Sony fails.
No, you're right.
And it's like, it's not Jade Raymond's fault that Stadia was a terrible idea. Mm-hmm. She just saw an opportunity to get paid and
maybe make something cool.
And so maybe it works out fine and she gets something out the door and it's something cool. But it didn't, and it failed even faster than I think even any of our most dedicated Phil Harrison haters could have said it was going to fail. I mean, that was I was you know me, I'm a day one Stadia hater. Yeah. No question. Yep. And even I didn't think they'd give up on it that fast. Yeah. Like that was amazing.
You got Google money. You don't need to give up on it that fast.
And I can't really put a whole lot on her for motive because EA's mishandling of the Star Wars license is legend.
Yeah, it transcends
absolute
her.
Legend.
It really is. What a mistake.
What are you going to do? And now, the irony of it is like Battlefront 2 is seeing a resurgence now. And it's just like, because what else could?
Yeah, what else
they only made two games and they're the same fucking game.
Yeah.
It's just and now Respawn has to pull teeth to get 3 Jedi games out, which are all top sellers. Like I don't understand what's happening anymore. Like who can blame Jade Raymond for this shit when like these publishers just don't seem to know where their ass lives?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm not going to blame any of these creative people or producers for anything until I see actual evidence that they did anything wrong versus these idiots that run these publishers. Because all they want, I tried to explain it to someone today who doesn't know anything about video games or the video game industry, and I was trying to explain to her about, like, why she's like, well, why is it so bad in the industry? Why are some? Because it's just that things like they're chasing this thing where there's certain games like Fortnite that are giant hits and they are online and they last forever and people play them every day and they make all this money every quarter and they never stop and everyone just wants these eternal games that last forever and make
like
the line go up eternally. But there's only so many people and there's only so many hours in the day. You can play maybe one of those. It actually, it actually came out of her talking about how she had like lunch with a bunch of her friends and all of them play Marvel Strike Force, and they were all doing their dailies at the table, and she's like, "Isn't that
their daily login bonus?"
And I'm like, oh yeah, I wouldn't.
So here's my question: is Fair Games going to come out?
Man,
so they said they're going to continue on without her.
I'd flip a coin.
Yeah, I think it's 50-50.
Yeah.
What's PlayStation going to do with its games as a service going forward? Do you finally learned it's going to bail now?
I think it's going to slowly collapse like a flan in a cupboard.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you on both. Well, I lean a little more towards fairgames not coming out. I'd probably go like 60-40, 55-45.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean...
But it's not looking good. Like, when your leader leaves and the whole thing was her plan and everybody that's there she hired. I mean, that's always awkward, too. When somebody brings you into a job, you get into the job and the person that brought you there leaves, and suddenly you get a new supervisor who doesn't know you from Adam and Eve. That can put you on edge.
Yeah, it's real hard to bring in a closer on this kind of stuff.
Yep. Rob Ferguson seems to be good at it, but
yeah,
he's kind of the closer in the industry. He finished off Diablo 4 when it was languishing in development. So
and Bioshock Infinite.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
He just brought him in. It was like,
that's
get
right.
that shit
I
out the
forgot
door.
about that. Yeah, that's right. And he did make some tough cuts on that game.
Oh, yeah. To its detriment, I think.
Yeah,
but, like,
I'd
you
agree with
had
that.
to get that game out the door.
Yeah.
Like, it had to go. It had to ship.
Well, let's check in with you guys. Obviously, I mean, at this point, PlayStation is, like, the only console. Like, if someone plays console games at this point, 90% of the time they're going to own a PlayStation 5, and you folks are really no different at all. Eth Demon says, I think Marathon will kill Bungie. We're going to get to Marathon a little later in the show.
Marathon gets its time in the crosshairs later.
It's going to get its own time on the whipping post. Retro Modern Gamer says, she seems like a grifter. Collects a paycheck and is never around for a product to be launched and reviewed and tied to her.
Well, if the product doesn't come out, that can never happen.
Yeah,
so.
I mean,
those that's not her call.
Yeah, if she gets fired, that's not her being a grifter. Like, she was fired from EA. Like,
none of the things that didn't ship from her are because she fucked up.
Yeah, I mean,
they're all because the people running the companies are idiots.
She left Stadia because Stadia closed down.
Stadia ended. Like, there's nothing
what are
you
you
can do
talking
about that. And
where are you getting this from, Retro Modern Gamer?
Google's not going to just give you the rights to the thing you made for them.
Yeah.
Like, Google doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Erebus Jones says there is so much money to be made if it hits that Sony aren't going to give up. I think they'll just be more quiet about announcing them. You could be right.
Yeah,
they can just stay behind the scenes, like working on games as a service. Like, you know what? We're just not going to tell anybody about it.
Yeah, I think maybe part of the lesson here, you would think. I mean, again, you can never know with Sony because Sony is loony. But like, one of the lessons here would be like, don't tell us there's 12 of these things in the pipeline. Just work on them internally, and if anything comes around that you think has, because I will say, you know, even with the kind of B-list quality that Helldivers 2 has, you can look at Helldivers 2 compared to all these other games they have in the pipeline and call that one out as the one that's got the unique thing.
You can see it's got a hook.
It's got the USP. It's like, okay, it's got the Starship Troopers connection, it's got the Terminator connection, it's got the Independence Day connection, it's got like some kind of extraction shooters there, but it's also like a horde shooter, it's got a co-op element, like it's all there. Like, you can tell there's something about it.
Kind of comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, look at the new thing where they're putting you on Earth.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, oh,
well, now
that's really
it's
cool.
being attacked, right?
Yeah, now Earth's being attacked. And so you have to defend democracy at home. The home front. I'm like,
may be doing that.
I'm like, it's not, and it's like, but that's exactly what's great about that team is like, you're taking the gameplay and you're putting it somewhere different and you're doing something different with it, but you're also taking the theme and turning it on its head and you're exploiting it properly, and it gives you all this fertile ground for more of the satire that like kind of is the hook for like kind of the unique selling point in terms of the window dressing. It's fantastic, and not a single other game as a service in Sony's pipeline or any of that, not a single one of those other things has that.
Yeah.
You can look at just the premise of Helldivers 2 and think of all these different things they could do with it, and you look at all these other things and you're like,
that's pretty much
that's it. That's what it is.
That's all there is.
That's what it always is going to be.
Yeah.
It's always going to be that.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the difference.
Emperor Gestal 84, thank you for Twitch Prime. Swan Senpai says, is EA dropping the ball the biggest missing gaming? They should have printed money for 10 years.
100%. You have the Star Wars license for 10 years and you put 3 games out? You're
pathetic.
Fucking idiots.
It really is pathetic.
Fucking idiots.
Yeah.
And look at all this shit that they worked on and canceled, and that fucking Quantic Dream Star Wars game still won't die. Like, and as far as I know, that thing isn't even remotely close.
Khalib Twilai says, Jade Raymond going to Ubisoft after Claire Obscure sounds like she's cashing in.
Huh?
I don't understand what that means.
What does that have to do with Claire Obscure?
I mean, it was made in France.
Right, but that's not...
I don't...
She had nothing to do with it.
It was made by former Ubisoft employees.
A couple of them.
But I still
like,
don't
what does that have to do with Jade Raymond?
Yeah, Khalib, can you clarify? I'm not getting the connection there. Payday 2 was a massive success. Okay.
I think that's in reference to why are they making all these extraction things.
Yeah.
But
Payday 3 is a huge flop.
Yeah.
And now they bought it back from the publisher.
Payday 3 lost to Payday 2.
Right.
Like it's like even their own game can't beat Payday 2, so why are you trying to beat Payday 2?
Yeah.
At a certain point, some of these companies need to learn to leave well enough alone.
Yeah. Erebus says, vote with your wallet, stop spending on PlayStation. Fair enough.
I certainly haven't had anything to spend my money on over there.
Yeah, Swan Senpai says, if there was no third-party games, I'd have given up on gaming 2 or 3 years ago.
Actually, that's a lie. I bought the disc drive last week.
Oh, you did?
I haven't put it on the PlayStation Pro yet, but I did look because everyone was saying it was actually available now, and it was. I was able to get it at Target.
Retro Modern Gamer does bring up a good point. Every time Sony becomes top dog, the hubris goes to its head, and then they trip over their own shoelaces.
Every
like
single
a clown.
time. Every single time.
Between the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3. Here's the difference, though. There's no Xbox 360 coming to save
there's
the
nothing
day.
at their heels this time, so they're basically just going to constantly lose money and just, like, lay there. Like, and the question, it's like, on one hand, it's like, well, I guess it's maybe good because they're not going to get swallowed up by any competition, but at the same time, it also means they don't have any hot poker in their ass to get their act together in any reason, except, like, stop hemorrhaging money. But, like, I don't know, that didn't stop the fucking film division from making... The film division, I think, lost close to $1 billion on those Spider-Man villain, like, adjacent movies.
And I could have told them.
They would have done better if they just did nothing.
Right. It saved $1 billion.
If they just did nothing and let the money roll in from the MCU ones they co-produced.
Right. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Ashes in the Hourglass reminds us, don't forget, there are 2 Horizon games as a service in development right now.
Yeah.
Funny how those 2 games have not been canceled yet.
Or shown.
Like, but who is the head of PlayStation's first-party studios now?
The former head of Guerrilla.
Hulse, the former head of Guerrilla, and Guerrilla is making one of those. I think Nexon's making the other one. But his properties are the ones that are surviving the chopping block every time here. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, but also, Horizon's their most successful new IP in like 30 years. So.
That is true, yeah. Erebus says, there's so much money to be made, Sony isn't going to give up. I think we read that one already. Yeah.
I mean, they're basically playing the lottery, right? You're constantly spending.
Yeah,
you're spending 20.
That's all you're doing.
You're spending $20 a week, hoping that one day you win $40 million.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Yep. Swan Senpai follows up with, I just lost him. Or her. Actually, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. The big issue is that everyone has their FTP game, free-to-play game. Nobody's going to drop Fortnite, Warzone, or Marvel Rivals. No, that is the problem. You have to try.
That's always
to
my thing.
Pull people away
That's
from.
Always my thing. It's like, do you have? It's not just is the game good. It's not just is the game a functional live service game. Is there anything about this game you're making that's going to make someone play this instead of Fortnite? And if your answer is no, what are you doing?
You're dumb. Yeah, you're doing something stupid. Yep. Swanland, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. Hope you're doing good. In the Erebus, the final question. Are Herman Hulse and Matt Booty friends?
Yeah. Sony does have to keep making Spider-Man movies so they don't lose the rights, but those Tom Holland Spider-Man movies count as that.
Yeah, just make Spider-Man movies. You have to do spin-offs.
Yeah. They want their own little fiefdom where they don't have to answer to Kevin Feige on anything. That's what they wanted, and they weren't up to the task.
Yeah.
In part because none of those villains are not supposed to function on their own. They're meant to work with Spider-Man. Did
Khalib Twilai ever clarify? Oh, yeah, here he is. There's a lot of bad press at Ubisoft. That's why I made the Clair Obscur comparison. But there's no bad press about Clair Obscur. I still don't get it.
I don't know.
As a result of Clair Obscur.
Because I guess they could have just made that with those people or something. I don't know. Clair Obscur.
You're on a different level there that we're not seeing.
I don't know. Clair Obscur is a little too far for. I mean, I can't see that. Swan, on the Spider-Verse films do not count in that because they're animated. The animated Spider-Man license is a separate license.
Live action only.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have known Jade for 20 years, and she's always been awesome. I mean, I've been around her a dozen times probably. I've interviewed her 5 or 6 times.
She never remembers me, but that's fine.
I mean, she meets so many people. Yeah. I've hung out with her at the bar and drank with her a couple different times. She's awesome. She's good people. So, I mean, who knows? People change over time. I have not seen her in quite a while. She could have changed. I would be surprised if that's the case. So, everybody kind of in chat saying, oh, she's swindling.
Yeah, the most important thing to me is like everyone I know who has worked with her and knows her in that regard, not a single one says anything like that about swindling or grifting.
Yeah,
not a single one of them would say that about her. These are people that have known her professionally.
She legitimately wants to make good games.
Yeah.
It feels like she keeps putting herself in bad positions to do that.
Yeah, to some degree.
It's not all
but part of
everyone else's fault.
No, but part of it is she doesn't want to risk her own money on some of this. That she tends to build companies under larger mega corporations, which is the smart thing to do.
Yeah, I wish I had done.
There's no reason.
Yeah.
Hey, CBS.
Seriously. So there you go. Where do you think Jay's going to end up? I say Ubisoft. I think she'll end up back there.
I think that very greatly depends on what happens to Ubisoft in the next few months.
Yeah. It could be a good headline for Ubi.
I think she. There's a non-zero chance she ends up at Ubisoft trying to build something to rescue something. Maybe you bring her in to finally get Beyond Good and Evil 2 out the door.
Right.
But either that or like another company under some other banner.
Because I doubt EA is going to do it. I doubt PlayStation's going to do it. Take-Two maybe could be a target.
Sega.
That's kind of awesome. We could have her do the next Space Channel 5.
Yeah. Or the next Jet Set Radio.
Right, yeah. So anyway, that's the latest on Jade Raymond and PlayStation first party. Both of them are kind of in a weird place right now. But I mean,
everybody's in a weird place.
Right.
That whole industry's in a weird place.
It is, yeah. So anyway, I wish Jade well. She's always been good to me and good to all the publications that I've worked at. And as far as I can tell, she's a really good person. And again, I'm not going to absolve her of all responsibility in this.
Well, nobody's perfect, but I hear a lot of gossip. You know, I ended up friends with a fair number of developers over the years, and I've never heard anything bad from them about her. And believe me, game developers will tell you everything bad about anyone.
Yeah. Watch the latest Pactor Factor where he talks about Jade, and he also has talked to countless developers. No one ever says anything bad about Jade. No. And we're at bars, and
not because they're afraid of her,
right? Yeah. Where people are honest and they won't say a bad word about her. So,
that says a lot because believe me, I know some shit about some people that will never be said on this show
or any show.
But no, I never heard a single negative thing about anyone from anyone who knows her.
Me too. Or worked with her, worked under her. All good. All right, let's move on.
If there's any problem with Jade Raymond, she might be too good.
Seriously, I've never heard anyone have anything negative other than our chat.
Yeah,
that's the first time I've ever seen someone say something negative.
Well, I've seen some negative things from some weirdos.
Oh yeah, I mean, it got bad in the height of her popularity. It was awful. Mm-hmm. That was the first sign to me that this image that I had built up of my fellow gamers was a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, that was the first time I think I knew all that already because as someone who screened Morgan's fan mail.
Oh right, but that was also one of the first things.
But when they started doing like some of the really disgusting comics and things, again, was like, yep, they're finally starting to show that. Yeah, you know, it was the stuff that was being said, like kind of in bedrooms and living rooms between weirdos playing these, and all of a sudden like, oh, the internet is just showing us these people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who knew how prominent that would become over the years?
Yep. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about The Midnight Walk. This is the game that I teased a little bit earlier that has a Metacritic around 9. I think we have 2 reviews for the game up on SIFTD at this point. Mm-hmm. Like, people just aren't covering it. They're not reviewing it for whatever reason. But we're going to fix that right here on GameFace, episode 434. Matt, did you get a chance to play this at all?
I did not.
Okay. Are you familiar with what it is?
I'm vaguely aware. It was like kind of as a claymation stop motion look to it. I don't really know much more about it other than I've seen it. I've definitely seen it pop up on the social media, and you've mentioned it. Mm-hmm. It looks interesting. I just didn't get around to it.
It is a crazy game. You're seeing the beginning of it right now. There's not some like elaborate cutscene to set up the game or anything. It starts like this, and no, you don't need to adjust your eyes. This is the way it starts out, really blurry like this. You walking through this blurry tunnel, and then you emerge, and you're in this insane world. Well, the first thing you do is here you meet your sidekick, who's going to be with you for the entire game. His name is Pot Boy. This is another one of those games like Little Big Planet where they were just like creatively, they couldn't come up with anything better than like Pot Boy.
Well, it wasn't. It's not that. It's that's part of the aesthetic.
You think?
It's like no, I know like that, like this kind of like Tim Burton-y sort of like that's part of the quote unquote charm. Like I find it kind of gratingly twee, but like that is part of the charm. Is just like it's like the stripy snake is just called Stripe Snake, and it's just like it's shit like I can't tell you. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just saying like that is part of this sort of aesthetic and kind of vibe is like, oh, it's Potboy, because that's what else could he be, kind of thing. It's like that kind of thing. It's Sackboy is also part. I mean, it's not quite as in the hot topic zone as this is, but like, no, it doesn't surprise me that he's named Potboy, because that is definitely on that sort of.
I don't think they ever actually name him in the game.
No, I'm sure it's just what they call him.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to name him something, because otherwise there's nothing on the box for the merch, because you know they're going to sell.
Oh yeah,
they want to sell some Potboy.
Well, I hope so. I really feel like this game is slipping under the radar, and it should not be.
It is surprising me that, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that it's not like a million seller, but it does surprise me there's only 2 reviews. It feels like this would be something that everybody would jump on review-wise. It's sort of like Blueprints.
Right.
Like, it's like, oh, another indie darling, kind of go for it. Why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, but and again, there are more than 2 reviews.
Especially because it looks so
there.
good. Like that's a really. I mean, it certainly looks different. I mean, I guess it's a Little Nightmares adjacent, but like.
Yeah, I mean, it's Tim Burton.
Yeah.
I don't think they're trying to hide their inspiration for this game at all.
No, definitely not. But it's not like it's an ugly game or something you wouldn't want to show.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's startlingly awesome at many moments in this game. There's no other game on the planet that looks like this game. I can promise you that. You play as this character called the Burnt One, and you see it's a first-person game, so you don't ever really get to see what you look like, but you see your hands and like your feet, and you are literally like burnt to a crisp, basically.
You burnt.
You burnt.
Yeah.
Seriously. And it takes place in this world called the Work Table that, as Matt mentioned, is built entirely from clay, and it is brought to life with stop-motion animation. You play as the Burnt One. You're this character that, again, you just walk out of this hole, and that's how the game starts.
Yeah, that's how everyone's game starts when it comes down to it.
Although I didn't walk out. I'd like to see that.
Really?
Or not.
I thought everybody in Philly just walked out. So, yeah, bring it.
Ash's asks, is Potboy much different than Edward Scissorhands?
Now, Edward that's what I'm talking about. Edward Scissorhands is a little on the nose when you think about it, isn't it?
And then Swanland says, I can't imagine how nauseous Shane would be playing this in VR. And I should bring up, for people who are just listening to the show and can't see our upper third, this game is for PC, PS5, and PlayStation VR 2 and PC VR. So you can play this game in VR. This would be a crazy game to play.
Yeah, all both of you have fun with that.
Seriously. So anyway, you play as the Burnt One. You enter this land called the Work Table that has been bereft of light for eons. Everybody you meet in this hasn't seen light in forever. Like, they've basically they tell these tales about when the light was about to go away and the sun was about to disappear. They scavenged all the burnable stuff that they could to keep fires going as long as they could. Eventually, they ran out of stuff, even though there's wooden chests of drawers throughout the entire game. They claim that they ran out of stuff to burn. They haven't seen a flame or light in forever. And so you show up, you're burnt to a crisp, so somewhere you were adjacent to fire, and you have Potboy with you that has a fire burning inside him. And these people are obsessed with light and fire. They want warmth to come back to their world. And you end up using those wants and desires against the enemies in the game. Because eventually, you use fire to distract the enemies. Because they're so obsessed with it, if you light a fire somewhere, they immediately run to it to try to consume it. And that allows you a distraction that you can use to kind of do what you need to do and go where you need to go. So this world has been plunged into eternal darkness and populated by these horrible creatures. No one's seen fire. It's your job to restore all the light and the warmth back to the world. Your actual quest is to walk to Moon Mountain on the Midnight Walk. So the Midnight Walk is this path that goes through these hellish landscapes that you have to walk till you get to the crescendo, basically, the mountain peak. And along the way, you meet you go into these neighborhoods that have crazy stuff going on. So one of the first neighborhoods that you go into is called Nobodyville or something like that. And everybody in the town is a nobody. They can tell that you're a somebody, and so they reject you. But every town has like a little theme, a little something that's going on there that you have to fix or rectify. Like you get to one town and all the people there are just heads and they're all missing their bodies. And so they're obsessed with trying to reconnect their heads with bodies, and that becomes your job. There's another town that you get to where people are looking for masks. So you have to go out into the town, you have to find the mask and then take them to the right character so they can put the mask on. And you just continue down the midnight walk, walking into these little towns, solving their problems, and then moving on to the next. Along the way, you have Pot Boy. You also have, here's another one. You have a house that follows you around. There's a house with legs that like follows you from town to town. I'll give you one guess what its name is.
Homeboy?
One more.
I like Homeboy.
That is a great name. But see, they were not creative enough to come up with it, so what did they go with?
Houseboy.
Housey.
Housey? That's very Pee Wee Herman.
It is very Pee Wee Herman. Or very hockey nickname. So in hockey, every nickname they give a player, they just add a Y to the end of his name.
Right. Well, I'm more thinking about Cherry.
No, I hear you.
The name of the chair.
Yeah, I hear you.
Which I always thought was really stupid.
Yep. Kind of like Potboy.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's this house that walks around and literally a house on feet that walks around and follows you. And you can go in there and so throughout the course of the game, you collect like these little dolls and stuff. And basically you go into Housey and you can look at all the things that you've collected throughout the course of the game. But otherwise, I don't really think there's any purpose to the stuff that you're collecting. I think it really is just to look at and gander at inside Housey. The game itself, before I ever played it, I thought it was a puzzle adventure game. Now that I've played it, it's not. It is an action adventure. Although it's heavy on action and it gradually dwindles as the game goes on, which is kind of odd. The final hour of the game is pretty much almost all cutscenes. Literally, like just one long exposition dump where they explain everything that's been going on. And they do a very good job of it. I'm not criticizing it for this. I'm just explaining sort of the flow of the game. But it is an action adventure. There's no jumping per se, and a lot of it is sort of puzzle platforming, figuring out how to open a door by lighting a bunch of things that need to be lit with matches. That's a big part of it. But you also eventually get a gun that can shoot lit matches, and you fight enemies with it, you solve puzzles with it. So it's more on the adventure side of the action adventure, but it is an action adventure. Now, you've been seeing in the B-roll here, fire is a big part of the game. You'll come across these huge packs of matches all over the world. And how those usually work is you strike the match, and then you have X number of seconds before the match completely burns out. So a lot of the game is structured in like, light the match, now run and get to the candle that you need to light before the match burns out. That's kind of a big part of how the game works and sort of how the puzzles work. Basically, lighting a match, getting a bunch of things accomplished with that match before the match burns out. And then obviously later on when you get the gun that shoots matches, you can then use the matches from a distance and it gets a little bit easier. So you can just like fill up the gun with matches from the matchbox and then you can only get with like 20 or 30 feet and you can shoot the match to light stuff instead of having to run on foot to get there and light it. And that is kind of the bulk of the game. Generally, it's mostly a stealth game where you're running from enemies and hiding. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you use fire to distract the monsters. So you'll come into kind of an open area with a couple different pathways. There will be a monster patrolling the area looking to kill you. You figure out a way to sneak in there, light something. As soon as you light something, that creature will run towards the fire to consume the fire. That gives you your distraction that you need to go where you need to go or light another match or do something else. A lot of other objectives in the game right here, perfect timing. You need to light 5 candles to open a door. And you need to figure out where all the candles are, light them all, and the door will open. There's other mission objectives where you use the gun and you're in an area and you have to really poke around and look to try to figure out where the candles are that you need to shoot with the gun. So you're just kind of like using environmental awareness in those cases. There's lots of chase sequences in the game where monsters will just start chasing and you just got to run. And like, it is, some of this stuff in this is terrifying. I really think in VR, it will freak some people out because when you run away, they give you things that you can use to help with that. So you can find like a chest of drawers that you can jump in and hide, and you can look out through the crack of the door and figure out when the monster goes by or whatever. There are also these little almost like tents that you can get into, and if you go into a tent, the monsters can still get their heads in the door of the tent, and so the first few times you do it, you're terrified that the monster's going to be able to snag you and rip you out of there. They can't. I guess that's maybe a little bit of a spoiler, but it's scary. And so the game gives you the tools that you need. Here you can see, like that's the monster that I was trying to avoid. They can see from a really long ways away. And there are some times in this game where it gets cheap, where like you die and you respawn and you walk like 5 feet and the monster from like 300 yards away gets that line of sight and sees you and comes running. You just stand there, wait to die again, and try again. So there is a little bit, like most stealth games, there is a good bit of trial and error to this game. There's no doubt about it. There's other sections where you're in like the snow, the frozen tundra, and you have to stay next to Potboy to stay warm, or you have to light fires as you go to stay warm. There's like wind gust storms that like you have to wait for them to stop so you can run. Here's another mechanic that is prevalent throughout the game. Anytime you see an eyeball, close your eyes. So the L1 button closes your eyes. Well, perfect timing with the B-roll again. And it's used throughout the entirety of the game. Anytime you see an eyeball, close your eyes, and the environment will change when you open your eyes again. And that happens with inanimate objects, like there's some doors that you come to where there's an eyeball on it. Close your eyes, open your eyes, the door's open. But there's also monsters that have eyeballs, and you can use closing your eyes to make the monsters disappear and go away. And that is a mechanic that is used from the first 10 minutes of the game all the way to the last 10 minutes of the game. Anytime you see an eyeball, close your eyes. They do other cool stuff, though, with closing your eyes and the audio in the game. So sometimes you close your eyes and you use the directional audio to find things. Like you're fumbling around in the dark, using the audio to guide you where you need to go. When you get to the point where the sound effects are really, really loud, you open your eyes, and that's where you needed to be. Like there's one section of the game where there's a bunch of coffins in this like basement or whatever, and there's only 3 of them that have stuff in them that you need to close your eyes and use that sound placement to find the coffins that you need to open to get the stuff out of them. And again, that's a very unique thing that only this game does that is handled very, very well. One thing I will say, though, about this game is that it is very dark. And Matt, I am so tired of playing dark games. I am so sick of playing games where I'm like, I can't see anything. I don't need it. I'm tired of having to go and search for the brightness settings on my TV. I am starting to wonder if, like, an OLED TV isn't great for dark games.
I mean, I haven't had an issue as long as I've adjusted the brightness on some things a little higher than, you know, the image on the left is a little more visible than barely visible.
I do that now too.
But like, you know, you can't really trust any of that. You know, if we can't trust the settings on the dialogue mixing anymore, why would we trust the brightness settings?
That's
anymore?
True. Yeah. I would turn up the brightness on this a little bit for sure. I found myself.
It also depends.
Around.
Like I have a much harder time playing games in the living room in the daytime because it's bright in there, and at night it's probably, you know, there's games I play at night that are fine, and then I try to play them during the day. And I'm like, I can't fucking see anything.
Even at night, this game had sections that were hard
it's definitely
to see.
Dark.
Yeah.
Clearly intentionally.
Yeah, you're never gonna walk out into a sunny meadow in this game. I'm just telling you right now that doesn't happen. Here's another mechanic. Sometimes you come across these pools of darkness, and you basically just throw a match down into the pool, and it dissipates, and you can get away. The whole theme of the game is destroying the darkness and trying to bring light back to this world. That's the theme, and so everything you do is kind of tied around that. Here's another mechanic.
Well, maybe the people who live here should use some of those infinite match books or
something.
Right.
Here's another mechanic where you send Potboy through, like, these tubes. This is, like, the first one. It's very simple. Later on, as you get further into the game, you have to kind of track him as he goes through the tubes because sometimes, like, you instruct him. You kind of are his maestro. So you use your hands to tell him, light that flame, light this flame, light that flame. Sometimes you get to places where he cannot get to the flames you need to light, and you need to use those tubes to get him next to the place so you can instruct him to then light the flame. That's another mechanic that becomes very prevalent as the game wears on. The audio in this is just incredible across the board. I already talked about how there's gameplay elements around the directional audio.
They call these shell phones, and they didn't call the house Homeboy.
Right.
Like, you're really letting me down here, guys.
So those phones that you just saw him, they're just these little speakers that you carry, and they kind of fill in the plot in between the towns that you end up in. And they'll add context to the town you just left, and they will set up the town that you're about to enter. They'll say, hey, these people are nobodies, and they hate somebody, so how's that going to work out? Like that type of thing. And those are prevalent throughout the entire game, those little speakers that you pick up. And again, the audio in this is absolutely incredible. I already talked about the directional audio as a gameplay element. This soundtrack is smooth jazz. It's like, if you look at this game, you would never guess that is what the music would be for this game. It's all jazz and smooth jazz. It's very interesting at first, but after you play it for a while, it absolutely makes total sense. I don't know how to explain it, why it fits or how it fits, but it absolutely does. The voice acting in this is ridiculous. Like, you meet the craziest characters in this, and the way that they have them voiced, and they're all human voices. and how they managed to find people. A lot of the voices in this kind of remind me of From Software's voiceovers, where people are like whispering or mumbling. Like there was lots of times where I had to like get closer to someone to like hear what they were saying, or spin around so like the rear satellite speaker was next to them so I could hear very clearly in my ear what they were saying. And that's all for effect. Like sometimes the mumbling is on purpose. They don't want you to hear what they're saying. And I always turn off subtitles so I don't see what they're saying anyway. I think this game is better without subtitles because it really, I think, makes the voice acting in this game have a much bigger impact than it would have otherwise if you had the subtitles. So the voice acting is great. The one thing I would say is, as I mentioned earlier, there's trial and error in this. So you'll get to some sections where you end up dying over and over until you figure out exactly what the game wants you to do. When you die in this game, the sound effects of you dying are horrifying. And my poor wife had to listen to it over and over again. She was finally like, okay, put on the headphones. Because literally the sounds that the monsters make when they attack you and they're eating you are horrible. They literally are like traumatizing. And that does get a little annoying in the sections of the game where you have to keep trying kind of the same things over and over again, having to hear that over and over. But yeah, I guess what I would say overall about this is that this is the video game that Tim Burton never made. Like, if he ever made a video game, this would be it, except this is way darker and way more bleak than anything Tim Burton ever made. Tim Burton's stuff still has, like, this ray of, like, hope or light in it. This game is really oppressive. It's only about 5 hours long, 6 hours long. I think that's roughly what it took me to finish it. And that's plenty. Because it really does, like, impact, like, your mood. At least it did me. After I got done playing it, my mood was different. There's no doubt about it. But this is, again, it's one of those games where if you complain that you're tired of playing the same old stuff over and over again, you think publishers have become low risk and aren't willing to take chances on things anymore, you need to support games like this. That's the only way you start getting more unique ideas and unique concepts. And would I give this game a 9 on the 7 to 10 scale? Probably not. I'd probably come in a little bit lower than consensus on this. I still think it's an amazing piece of art because that's really what this is. If you're a zealot who makes the argument that video games are art, put your money where your mouth is and buy this game. It is $40. It is sort of the poster child for video games are art. It is literally made by hand. Everything in this game, Matt, was made out of clay and cardboard by hand and then hand animated. Now, one thing I will say is that you complained. What game was it we were talking? Oh, it was South of Midnight. Mm-hmm. You're complaining about how the game wasn't consistent with the cutscenes as far as like the stop motion animation and kind of the jittery frame rate. Yeah. This game also does that. Mm. Like in cutscenes, everything looks stop animation. When you're playing the game, it doesn't really give you that vibe. So there is that inconsistency there. It didn't bother me as much in this as it did in South of Midnight, though. I don't know why.
Well, because everything seems to run at that same frame rate. Yeah. As opposed to, like, South of Midnight didn't run that way in the game. Mm-hmm. I think if this character was third, because even the hand is moving like that in the burnt kid here. I think if you were a third-person game, it would maybe be a different story. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's South of Midnight doesn't quite balance, and also like even the stuff in the cuts, even the other stuff in the main gameplay doesn't move like that. You know, like at least Potboy is moving stop motion-y here.
In the cutscenes, he does, yeah.
But even this thing is moving. You know, there's not as much line between them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if I'd want to play a game where it's consistently like stop animation. I don't know if I'd want to play like a jittery game for 5 hours. But you can see there, so you have a little
The
green...
mix works better here than in South of Midnight.
Yeah, it does. And you can see there you have a little green sort of wispy thing that will lead you onto your next destination, although this game is like 100% linear. There's no branching paths, there's no alternating paths or anything like that. And if the little blue wispy thing doesn't show you, Potboy will show you. He also will run ahead of you, show you where to go. He'll look at things to give you like a point of interest. Like if you're trying to solve a puzzle and you can't figure out what to do, watch him. And watch where his head goes, and he will look at the stuff that you need to focus on to solve the puzzle. So this game, technically astounding, artistically astounding, gameplay, moment-to-moment stuff, probably its weakest element for sure. And there were a couple frustrating points in the game where they really want you to like they shave down the time to take that match from the matchbox to the candle down to like the 10th of a second, and you have to like sprint in a perfect line sometimes to get like there's stuff like that in there. But overall, it's a pretty easy play. The puzzles aren't all that challenging, and it is overall just a really incredible experience that you're not going to get anywhere else. So I really enjoyed the Midnight Walk. I am glad that it only lasted around 5 hours. I don't know if I could have played it much more than that, but for the amount of time that it lasted, it was perfect, I think. And I do want to see more games like this, so I do hope some of you guys and girls will go out there and support this game. Again, it's $40. It's for PC, PS5, PlayStation VR 2, and PC VR. Obviously, VR makes me sick. I didn't get to try out the VR in this, but just watching this B-roll, you can see like the chase sequences when the monsters come, it would terrify me. So I think definitely in VR it would be a pretty intense experience if that's your preferred way of playing something like this. But again, just the whole mechanic of the closing your eyes thing, something I've never done in a game before.
Yeah.
So
Ruthina77 says the next one will be better.
Yeah.
Like the next this?
I mean, do you think it'll get a sequel?
I don't know. Does Ruthina know? Sounds like inside info to me.
Ruthina77.
There was a Nightmare Before Christmas game, but it was a PS2 game, like 10 years after the
Was
movie.
there?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, actually.
Oogie's Revenge.
I didn't know that.
I remember we did a review on that one. But no, that was a long time after the movie. The movie did not have a game tie-in at the time.
Threadzilla, thanks for gifting the Tier 1 sub. That's awesome. Retro Modern Gamer says I have an OLED and pro tip I can give. Is OLED TVs have to be calibrated? I mean, I did calibrate mine. I went through.
Yeah, but if you finish his comment, he talks about how the perfect black on an OLED, a lot of games do not expect that to be there, so you have to adjust up a little bit more.
Okay. Because I did go through the whole calibration thing, went and watched all these videos with these experts, and like I went through all that stuff, and it definitely recently I have played 3 games where it was so dark, it got really annoying. To the point where I brought it up here on GameFace, so that's when you know it's pissing me off. Noxator Knight has got to calibrate your TV, I did. Retro Modern Gamer, 5 candles, a.k.a. 5 pages like Slender Man. I did not know. I don't know anything about Slender Man. Slender Man freaks me out, man. It made 2 little girls like kill their friend. It's like, I'm good. I'll just stay away from the Slender Man.
I mean, it's all just.
Or they
silly.
tried to kill her. She actually lived. They stabbed her like 50 times.
Well, they blame Slender Man,
right?
But it's like you might as well blame D&D at that point.
Yeah.
Slender Man is a dumb copy pasta.
I mean, they were
thing.
8 or something.
Right.
Like stuff like that does affect young kids.
Yeah, but again, why are these kids online reading about Slender Man?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are the parents doing?
Yep. I hear you.
Commander
Fett, do you think the animation would make you sick in VR? I don't think so, because again, like when you're playing the game, it's not jittery like it is in the cutscenes.
I think VR would make him sick in VR.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm not touching it. I'm good with VR.
George Wendt died. That's sad.
Who?
George Wendt.
Who's George Wendt?
Norm from Cheers.
Oh, really? Well, that's sad. He was a fun guy. Yeah. Ruthina77, welcome to GameFace, and thank you for a first time chatting. The next one we better. I mean, it's really freaking good. If you worked on this game, kudos to you. It's incredible. I mean, by design, it's a niche game. It's a dark, sort of foreboding game that not a lot of people are going to want to play or resonate with. But if you're into that stuff...
She's quoting Ed Wood.
Oh.
Next one will be better. Yeah.
Gotcha. Grumpolopolis says the Alone in the Dark game from 360 PS3
That's
had
right.
an eye-blinking mechanic.
That's true.
I didn't remember that at all.
I remember that. Yeah, you had.
Was that the new Nightmare?
No, it was the Central Park one.
Oh, the one that you went to the junket for.
Yeah.
You've talked about before.
Yeah.
Vincent says, did you play Lost in Random, the last game from these devs at their old studio? I did not actually.
I did play that. The one with the die rolling. I think that was an EA indie release or something.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was EA was involved in
I did not play it.
It's pretty good. I mean,
this studio is good, man.
Very similar art style.
Mm-hmm.
But just it was like very die rolling involved stuff. I got it. I think I got it on PlayStation Plus or something. This
studio is really good. I would love to see the sequel to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I do regret I didn't play the trailers for the game because we finished up when the B-roll was kind of done. But the trailers show off a lot more of the other stuff I was talking about that wasn't in the B-roll. Because typically with B-roll, I usually just record the first hour and a half of the game to avoid spoilers. But
how much is it?
$40 for 5 hours. That's a little steep. But again,
it's about what you pay for a movie.
Yeah, but again, it is one of those things you're not going to get anywhere else. Like I mean, other than that PS2 game, you're not going to find anything like this out on the current console. So I am okay with the $40 price tag for this. Sometimes you have to pay a premium for stuff that's a little off kilter and a little bit different. And even $40, I wouldn't call it a premium, but for a small indie game that's 4 or 5 hours long, maybe you would consider it that way. So anyway, I'm totally cool. If you're into these types of games, spending $40 for the Midnight Walk, I think it's really worth it. I think this is one of the experiences for this year that when the year is over, you will still remember it vividly. Mm-hmm. Like you can play big action RPGs, play 10 of those this year. You may not remember half of this stuff in one of those games because you played 10 other ones. You will remember this game in December. I promise you that.
The Legacy notes that Before Your Eyes has the blinking mechanic, too.
What's Before Your Eyes?
That's a VR game. That's different because that actually is you physically blinking your eyes.
Oh, right. You're actually closing, and it picks up on you closing your eyes. Yeah, it picks up on you
closing your eyes. Yeah.
That's crazy. That sounds cool, though.
It is.
I wish I could try it, but that's not happening. But thank you guys for mentioning some other games that does have sort of similar mechanics. Vincent says, yeah, Lost in Random was an EA original, which means it's on PC, Game Pass Ultimate, which is how I played it. Okay. And then Swanland says they did big DLC for Lost in Random, I'm thinking. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. That's the Midnight Walk. Again, it's available for PC and PS5 in 2D. And if you want to play it in VR, it's available for PlayStation VR 2 and PC VR. I'm not sure why it's not coming out for Meta, which is the most popular VR helmet. You'd think that would be one of the first platforms, but my guess is eventually it will probably.
Vincent guesses it may. I wonder, does this work physically? Do you actually close your eyes in the VR version?
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
That would make sense.
It's the way the game is set up, though. Every time you boot it up, you can choose to switch to VR whenever you want. It'll just kind of snap over into VR. So if
I just wonder if you're playing VR, if it just notices.
I don't know. Your eyes. That's a good question, actually. I would guess probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they have internal cameras in PlayStation VR too.
Certainly, it would know.
Yeah, it should be able to do it. I would think so. So anyway, cool mechanics, new mechanics. We don't get those very often, so keep that in mind. The Midnight Walk. All right. Next up, we're going to review a game that I was pleasantly surprised by. But before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, the one and only LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. I have some really good news, people. So in last week's episode, I mentioned that at that moment, LS Cream was having a huge meeting to figure out what was the future of the company, how it was going to be able to work in America, or if it was ever going to be able to sell in America again. And I have great news. The meeting went amazing, and they are golden, and they are good. And they're going to be able to sell in America again without basically their company folding. They have figured out a way how to manufacture and get around the stupid-ass tariffs that they had to deal with. Long live LS Cream. It is awesome to hear. They have really gone through it over the last 4 or 5 months. This is the final culmination, finally, of this process that they have been on, and it all worked out great. So yeah, go to creamls.com/sifted. Let's celebrate with LS Cream. Go buy yourself a bottle of LS Cream to celebrate with them. Go to creamls.com/sifted. There you can figure out how to get a bottle locally, figure out how to get one sent to your doorstep, and then go back to the website and look at the drink recipes there and start making a couple of those drinks because they are absolutely delicious. In fact, putting LS Cream in just about anything makes it delicious. So again, go to creamls.com/sifted. Long live LS Cream. Great, great news. All right. And with that, it's time to move on to our next review. And Matt, do you remember Mercury Steam?
Yeah.
What do you remember most about Mercury Steam?
I remember Lords of Shadow.
The Castlevania game.
And how bad the second one was. And I remember how much I disliked the stealth sequences in Metroid Dread.
Yep. That's a pretty good synopsis of their work. They did do Metroid Dread. I think most people say that's the best game that they've made. But they also made...
I think the best game they made is the remake of Metroid 2.
Maybe. And then the other games that they worked on that most people would know are the 3D Castlevania games from the 360 and PS3 era. It was weird. I actually thought that those had also bled over to PS4, but I guess they didn't.
No.
Yeah, they stopped at the PS3 and 360. And those games, it seemed like the first one was pretty well received, and people were like, okay, like it's not perfect, but the second one will probably be better. And then to your point, the second one came out, and it was actually worse than the first one. So the wait goes on for a great 3D Castlevania. Think we'll ever get one, Matt?
We did. It was called Bloodborne.
Yeah.
But
That's about as close as it's gonna
Konami
get.
seems to be willing to make new versions of everything except Castlevania. So
Well, my theory on this game is that Mercury Steam pitched this game as a Castlevania game to Konami. And Konami, in the state that it's in right now, was like, nah, we'll pass. And so they went back, reskinned it, tweaked a couple things to make sure it didn't look like Castlevania at all, and then they renamed it to Blades of Fire. So for me, personally, having played a big chunk of this game, it feels like what a 3D Castlevania would be if we were to get it in 2025. And my guess is, at one point, it was blatantly a Castlevania game, and then Konami balked and didn't want to publish it.
Swanland says this is a spiritual sequel to another game they made in the past.
What was that?
I do remember something. It's like something of Bound by... It's not Bound by Flame, is it? That was terrible.
I remember that game, but I don't know if they made it.
Blades of Fire. It was
This
also
is
called
Blades. This is Blades of Fire.
It was also called Blades of Fire? Same name.
Really?
All right.
Well, yeah, of course then. But this is... I don't know if you've played the 3D Castlevania game, Swanland, but I'm telling you, as somebody who did, that this was the next game in that line. I'm just telling you. Having played all those 3D Castlevanias and having now played this was definitely same engine, same people, different painting, basically. Different coat of paint on the game. They do some things in this game, though, that maybe made Konami balk on it. Because this game, one of its big tenets is crafting. And now you say, Shane, every game now, a big tenet of the game is crafting. And you're right, most action RPGs, you're collecting a bunch of resources and you're going back to a table somewhere and crafting stuff and improving weapons. And that system does work here, except it's a much bigger system here. You are building your weapons from scratch in this game, using different parts that you collect. So different types of wood that you collect, different types of steel that you collect that all have different properties. And so when you put a weapon together, and it depends on the weapon, each weapon has a different number of parts, but like a sword will have like 4 parts, a pole will have like 5 parts. And the crazy thing is that like there's no real requirements for that.
This is so it's a spiritual successor. They have a lot of the same some of the same team members as a game called Severance Blade of Darkness, which is a PC game from 2001.
2001?
It was also on. It's also, I guess, it got Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and Series X releases. But it came out in 2001, and I guess the Codemasters will put anything on anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it was partly that, and it was codenamed Project Iron, and it was originally
Look how
signed.
gory this is.
It was originally signed in 2021 by 505 Games.
Mm-hmm.
This has been in development forever.
Yeah.
It does look a lot like their Castlevania game.
Yeah, it's a gigantic game, I would just say.
So was that first Lord of Shadows. You remember that Lord of Shadows game just goes on and on and on and on.
I'm at about, I don't know, 15, 20 hours into this game, and I am nowhere near the end of the game. Like, I literally don't even think I'm halfway there. Mm-hmm. It is gigantic. Now, again, going back to the crafting, that is this game's unique selling proposition. So you can build a sword. They'll say, hey, we need 5 parts for this sword. But actually, you can take away parts for certain weapons, and you can still craft the weapons. Now, one of the cool things about crafting in this, and you'll see in the B-roll eventually, we'll show it.
60 to 80 hours, Swanman
says.
says.
I'm not surprised by that at all. I believe that.
Major inspirations are Frank Frazetta, Excalibur, Lady Hawk, and the Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay. This game is definitely long, and I think it's $60, so you're definitely going to get your money's worth ultimately.
Seems to be reviewing pretty mixed, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at many reviews. A couple went up today, and I think I saw like a 7 and an 8 or something like that. So anyway, the crafting in this is a big deal, and they do give you some flexibility in how you craft your weapons. And then one of the cool things is the mini game that you use to craft your weapons in this. It's you're a smith, just like you were in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but the smithing in this is way more involved. And you'll see in the B-roll here in a little bit. It's like this. It's almost like the EQ, like an audio EQ that has like the different levels going up. and you need to hammer the levels that are really high until they match a line. And you can like twist the hammer so that it strikes at an angle. Anyway, the first time I did it, I was terrible, and now I'm like really good at it, and I can basically get a perfect every time. And that matters because how well you smith in this will determine how many times you can repair that weapon. So when you go to make a weapon, the quality of the weapon that you're trying to make gives you the number of stars that are possible, and then your performance actually smithing the weapon will determine how many stars you get. And if you create a 5-star weapon, that means that you can repair it 5 times before you have to junk it. You can junk it and get parts from it, or there's this other witch that you meet in a game that you can take your old weapons to, and she'll actually give you like really good stuff for them. So if you are going to play this, hold on to your weapons and wait until you meet the witch and take them to her, because you get much better results from her if you do it that way. But it's really cool to build your own weapon, and you can see it. Like, you choose the hilt, you choose the wood, and it's reflected in the actual weapon that you take out into the world. And it feels good to build a weapon and go out and start kicking ass with it. I just want to say, like, it's something that's different about this game from other games. I have seen people call this an action RPG. I do not think it's an action RPG. The only thing that you level up in this is not, actually, I don't think you level up anything. You build weapons. You never level up. You don't have any armor. There's no armor at all. The only item that you manage are the weapons. And here we're finally getting to see the smithing stuff. So I don't think this is an RPG. Like, there's not a lot of role playing.
It seems like more of an adventure game.
It's an action adventure, I think. But it also is a Souls-like. So the plot of this game, I should have shared with you guys already, is you play as a guy named Aaron Delira. He wakes up one day, and all the steel in the kingdom has been turned to stone by the queen. The queen has cast this spell that turns that turns all the stone, or all the steel in the kingdom to stone, except for you, because you're this god or whatever who is able to handle one of the 7 hammers of justice or whatever that makes you immune to the queen's spell and allows you to continue working with steel where everybody else can't. And the queen's idea is that if nobody has steel, she can sweep out into the kingdom and just wipe everybody out, and she can rule for eternity or whatever. So the game starts. Here you're seeing the smithing minigame, and my first attempt at it, I do absolutely horrible at it, but nevertheless, this is how it works. So anyway, when the game starts, you come across a friend of yours who the queen's soldiers are attacking them, basically. And you try to save him and defend him. It doesn't work out. They end up killing him. And that's the scene that you saw earlier, the crazy, bloody, gory scene. That's your friend being murdered. After he dies, his disciple, you basically take him on. You're like, look, you've lost your mentor. I'll become your mentor. And you take him home with you. As it turns out, he's like a freaking genius. There he is. You take him back to your home. You're like, hey, you can travel with me if you want to. He becomes your sidekick for the entire game. He never fights. He just runs around while combat's going on and blood's flying everywhere. He just runs around like holding his like notepad or whatever. He does come in handy in the game eventually. He can like decipher codexes. You'll come across like hieroglyphics on walls, and he can like interact with them and open doors. So he becomes kind of your sidekick, and he does everything but fight. And it is weird seeing him just run around in the middle of these fights all the time and not help you in any way, but that's just the way that the game is designed. So your goal in this game is to fight all the way through the queen's forces and get to the palace, to the castle, and kill the queen, to break the spell, basically, and return normalcy back to the kingdom. That's sort of the overarching goal of the game. Again, I do not consider this to be an action RPG because there's really not a lot of role-playing. Your character never really develops or changes. The only thing you're doing is picking up weapons. Now, one of the cool things about the weapons in this that I really like is you have to get recipes, and you take them, and once you have the recipe, and if you have all the parts, you can then construct the stuff. To get the recipes for the better weapons in the game, you have to fight the enemies that are using the weapons. So, say this guy, you want his whatever the hell that is he's using, you want his hammer or whatever.
It's a warhammer, yeah.
You need to kill him like 5 times, and then you'll get the blueprint for the hammer, and then you can go and make the hammer yourself. And so it kind of encourages you to take on some of the more difficult enemies in the game because you'll get the reward of their weapon that will then help you throughout the course of the game. Combat in this, also extremely unique. So if you look at the diamond shape of the face buttons on your controller, those represent the enemy's body. So the top button is the head. The left button, which would be the square on a PlayStation controller, that's swinging with the left arm. The circle button on a PlayStation controller, that's swinging with the right arm. And if you hit the X button, that's basically kicking them in the nuts. And that's how it's all set up. Like, basically, you're choosing the part of the body you want to attack by choosing the button on the face of the controller. And it works pretty well. One thing I did discover over time is that, like, left or right doesn't really matter. Like, if they tell you, like, oh, you need to attack with the left, you can attack with the right, and it'll do basically the same thing. So there's a little bit of subterfuge going on there. And then the other thing that's unique about the combat system is that enemies, and you'll notice it here in the B-roll eventually, enemies will have a colored aura around them. If they're green, it means that the weapon and the stance that you're using is going to kick their ass. If they're yellow, it's like in the middle. If they're red, don't even bother. And so you can swap weapons in this fairly quickly, but another thing that matters is your stance. So if you have a sword, you can use a stance as just like a swipe, and you just use the sword as normal, or you can choose the stabbing stance. And for certain enemies, that stabbing stance, 3 stabs, they're dead. On top of all that, if you hold buttons together, you'll do like flourishes. If you hold triangle and circle together, or triangle and square together, you'll do more elaborate attacks. And then if you hold in the buttons until the attack is finished, you do like these overpowered attacks. And those are important because they do, what's the word? I think they call it maiming or something like that. There are certain enemies in the game where you can't just kill them with the sword. You need to maim them. Like there's these trolls that you fight. And to maim them, you have to do the charged up attacks, and that will rip off their armor. In all honesty, if you have certain weapons and you do a charge up attack, it just annihilates them. Literally, it will turn an enemy into a pile of guts and muscle. It just one shot just explodes their entire body. And it took me a while to discover that. Up until I discovered that, this game was hard as balls. So the reason a lot of people are calling it a Souls-like, again, perfect timing, here's the bonfires in the game. While it's not an action RPG, it has the other tenets of a Souls-like. So these anvils that you find throughout the world, and they are very generous, they're everywhere. Like every 200 yards, there's an anvil pretty much. And you can fast travel between all of them. But at that anvil, you can rest, you can repair your weapons, you can go to that magical place I just showed you where you go to create weapons. You can do all that from the anvil. And if you rest, not all enemies respawn, but some do. So it's not quite as evil as the Souls games, where if you rest, everything comes back alive. You have to fight them all again. Just key enemies do in this. The other thing where it tries to be like a Souls-like is with its level design. It is 100% linear, but there are tons of branching paths. And it does do this thing where, like, you go into a building, you fight through the building, you get to the end of the building, and there's a door that you can only unlock from the side that you're on, and you open the door, and you're like, oh, I see where I am now, and you're like right back kind of where you started. There's a lot of that in this game, but the level design is nowhere near as good as it is in From's games. Like, there's not a ton of revelations where you're like, oh my god, I had no idea that I ended up back here. Like, those moments are few and far between in this, but those are sort of the elements of this game that make it very much like a Souls-like. Now, the combat itself, the design sounds cool, and it makes sense. It doesn't feel great. So you can block, or you can parry in this. So blocking is tapping the L1. The parry, you have to double tap the L1. I don't know if you've seen it in the B-roll yet. The roll in this is just comically slow. He literally, it's just like you watch him as he's rolling. And see, there you see I repaired that weapon. I lost a star. Mm-hmm. So I only have one more repair on that weapon. That's how that whole system works. But generally, the combat in this does feel a little bit clunky. There you can see there, I just blew up the whole wagon. And this is the troll that I was talking about earlier, where you cannot kill him unless you maim him. You can take his health bar all the way down, and then he'll turn to stone and regenerate back to full health, unless you take him out and maim him. And once you maim him, then you can finish him off and you can kill him. And so there are sort of conditions for each enemy in the game where you have to do specific things to take some of them out. They're not all that way. The other thing I would say that kind of I don't like about this game is that the vast majority of the enemies in it are humans. They're not monsters. And so it does get a little tired and tedious of fighting humans. And again, I'm only about 15 or 20 hours into this game. I'm already kind of tired of fighting humans. I wish there were more monsters in the game to fight. And perfect, you can see. So I didn't maim him. He turns to stone, and he comes back alive. And you have to fight him again. Because I had not learned yet the whole maiming mechanic as a part of the game. But generally, the combat in this does feel a little bit clunky. Like, it takes forever for him to, like, sheath his sword. Now you're seeing what happens when you die. So if you die, your weapon petrifies. It's just another Souls-like thing. However, it is easier than a Souls-like in that your weapon stays there forever. So if you die again, it doesn't disappear. You can keep dying, and you will have petrified weapons all over the game world that you can go back and pick up whenever you want to. So you lose the weapon for the time being, but eventually you can go back and pick it up, which is kind of like a Souls-like, but just a little bit lighter and a little bit easier than what you're used to. Here's the map. The map in this game sucks. It really does. Because the level design is like a From Software game where like it's labyrinthine. There's pathways and hallways on top of each other. It's like spaghetti, but there's no 3D map. It's flat. So you could be standing in a spot, but you're on the top of a tower or whatever. If you look on the map, it looks like you're just standing on the ground. So it became a little frustrating over time trying to track stuff down using the map when you get to some of the parts of the game where the level design is a little more intricate and complicated. But otherwise, I'm having a pretty good time with this. As someone who is not a big Souls fan or a big From Software fan, I do like the compromise that they've made to make it a little bit more palatable to people who don't want to have to fight things over and over and over again. But it still has a little taste of it. Like, you fight like the mini-bosses, you get hit square one time, you die. So you do have to mind your P's and Q's. You do have to roll. I also want to bring up here, these are the only RPG elements in the game. What you're seeing right here, your weapon. And this stuff does matter. So when you build your weapon, those stats over on the right there, as you decide to add something or take it away, it will show you how it affects those stats. So you know before you create your weapon exactly what you're getting into. There's stamina in this game, Matt. And it's also not as bad as a Souls-like, but there are definitely times where I ran out of stamina and I'm like trying to run away from enemies and they're like, and they killed me. But the way you build your weapons, it will show you, it shows you your parry window. 30 milliseconds. It gives you the exact window that you will have with that weapon. And again, I can add a different kind of steel to that weapon while I'm trying to forge it, and it will alter all that stuff. It will alter its block rating, its stamina rating, the dodge cost from your stamina. So these are the only stats in the game, and they're really the only stats that matter. So I really struggle to call this an action RPG. I know a lot of other publications are calling it that. A lot of other journalists are.
Some people just see a health bar and
yeah,
think it means RPG, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But
I guess this is as much of an RPG as like Fable.
Yeah.
But like I didn't really think of that.
I
think a Fable is more of an action adventure game.
I agree.
Anyway.
Yeah. But you can see here's like some of the simple puzzles. Like, hey, here's a crank. Now you need to find a place where you go and use a crank. You use a crank, it opens the door. Like the puzzle solving in this is very simple. That is definitely not the crux of the game at all. More likely, the way they designed it is we're going to put this crank in a place that's going to be hard to get. And once you get it, that's, the job is getting it, not using it, I guess is the way I was trying to say there. So fighting multiple enemies in this game, not too tough. You can see that they'll kind of sit back and wait for you to fight the one guy before they'll rush in. Very rarely do you have like multiple guys attacking you at the same time. But one thing I just lost stamina. Did you see it? Mm-hmm. Just for that brief second there. But one thing I will say is that enemies will just come out of nowhere. Like, they blend in, even though some of them are wearing armor, they blend in with the environments with, like, the rocks and the trees. And you can just be walking along, and next thing you know, some dude just stabs you from a bush because you just didn't see him in there. Sometimes you're fighting an enemy, and someone off-screen will start stabbing you, and you're like, oh, I didn't know you were there. Like, there's a lot of that. The other thing, too, about this game is, so I mentioned earlier, when you die, your weapon stays where you died, the one you had equipped. That also happens if you just fall off of a platform. And I died in this game way more times from fall damage and falling off of something than I did from combat. And if you die that way, your weapon is where you fell off, and you have to go back and get it again. And so it does get a little annoying having to go back and collect your weapons, because you will die in this. Because sometimes you just don't even see the enemy, and he just stabs you from a bush you never saw him. You're like, ah! So there's some frustration in this game. Generally, though, I am enjoying myself. I really like this system where you can build your custom weapons. I think it's really cool. I hope that I start to see it in more games. It doesn't seem like it's something that's all that complicated. It just feels like Mercury Steam was like, we want to do it, and so we're going to do it. I think other studios could easily pull it off, and I hope that some other studios look at this game and decide that's something that they want to do. The other thing I would say, too, is the AI of the enemies in this game, they're not very smart. So in From Software, I feel like it's hard to cheese enemies. You can easily cheese almost every enemy in this game.
Cheesing enemies is basic Dark Souls strategy.
I'm not good at it, though, for whatever reason in the Souls games. In this, it's not a problem. I can just bait him in, get him to swing, wait for him to stop swinging, attack, back off. And I beat every mini-boss in this game the same exact way. There are boss fights, not as many as I would like, but there are, and they are what you'd expect. They're like gigantic behemoths that you fight. And that is probably where the game's combat and gameplay gets mixed up the most. But you can see destructible environments in this. Weapons clang off of stuff. So if you have like a really long pole or a hammer weapon or something like that, and you go to swing it sideways, a lot of times it will clang off of a rock or off of a tree, and the hit won't land. So I've learned with like the longer weapons that I use the triangle a lot to do the top-down attack at the head. And if you're patient in this game, it's pretty hard to die in combat. But I'm not always patient. Also, you can see there I used health. So the way health works in this game, there's no health pickups at all. When you rest at one of the anvils, it refills your health flasks. Over time, you can get extra health flasks. When you start the game, you only get 3. And that's the only way to recover health. There's no health pickups that you find out in the world that you pick up. Nothing. So you really have to manage it. And that over time made me become patient playing the game. And then once I was patient, I learned that that's kind of the way to play the game. And there you can see the sidekick. He just runs around with his notebook, scribbling in his notebook. It's so bizarre to see. But this game is completely flying under the radar. Like, most people don't even know it exists. It comes out today, or I don't know, the embargo for the reviews are today.
I think it's the 25th.
Yeah, it's coming out real soon. Like, no one's talking about this game. Like, we included it in Dossier. It's one of the 10 games of the month to keep an eye on. But no one else is covering it. Like, 505 Games, to me, has kind of failed with this game as far as promoting it. There's, like, 2 trailers for the game total. I don't know. Like, did you even know what this game was before I mentioned it in text last night? Had you heard of it?
I'd heard of it.
Okay.
And I'd seen that the demo was available. I just didn't get around to it.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't exactly look like much when you just look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. But again, this is why GameFace exists, to turn you guys on to games that may have slipped under your radar. If you're looking for a lighter-ish Souls-like, you like a lot of the other stuff about Souls-likes, but you don't like how you just die from getting hit once or twice, there's a little bit of that in this, but it is way more forgiving. Like,
It's $60?
It's $60. I mean, it's an 80-hour game, and it does look pretty good. Like, this is another one of those games.
Right, but even you said you're getting tired of it.
I am, yeah. It gets repetitive. The combat, to me, isn't good enough. Like, eventually...
It doesn't look very good.
Yeah. Eventually, you can imbue your weapons with magic. The enemies have magic way before you do in this game, so you have to learn how to deal with magic before you get to actually use it yourself. But there's not really an elaborate magic casting system in this, so it is kind of melee-driven. More than like a lot of Souls games where you could be just a magic caster if you want to and never use a melee weapon. That's not going to happen in this game. But I really am enjoying it. Like, I'm getting a little tired of it. I'm going to keep playing, though. Like, I think I'm like right up on the edge of fighting another boss. I definitely want to see what that boss is. The bosses are memorable. And I do think, as far as USP, unique selling proposition, the crafting and the weapon crafting, the smithing, definitely something that's never been done in an action game the way it is done here. So it definitely has some unique things about it that I think if people like specific things in games, it could really resonate and be something that people would really like. It will be interesting to see kind of where the Metacritic comes out on this game. Having played what I've played, probably the 7's about right on a 7 to 10 scale.
Well, it seems to be getting 8s and 9s some places and 5s and 6s other places.
First, like I said,
IGN gave it a 5.
Ooh, wow. For certain people are going to love this game. Mm-hmm. They really will. And it is gigantic, and you do get kind of caught up in the lore, and like some of the characters that you meet are very interesting, but you don't meet enough of them. It really does feel like, for the most part, it's just you and this boy. And I should bring up also, this game does kind of shamelessly rip off like God of War Ragnarok. Like, he calls the kid boy over and over again. It's a very similar relationship to Kratos and Atreus as there is to these two. Even though the funny part too about this game is like, they talk to each other like they've known each other their entire lives, but they just met at the beginning of the game when his master is killed, and you take him under your wing.
Well, I mean, it is actually probably better that he's calling some strange kid he just met boy rather than someone calling their own son boy.
That's true. But as you play this, it does have God of War Ragnarok vibes to it, for sure. Where he's like the older guy.
Well, except Atreus helped sometimes.
Atreus could fight.
Yeah.
This kid, nope. He just sits there and scribbles.
Well, I guess that's how you learn to make the new weapons. He's taking notes on the fighting style of the guy or something.
Well, he does that, but it's also more of like he has some kind of magical ability to like see a rune and like do a little thing and it turns into a door that'll open up. Like he does stuff like that. You can also send him back to your camp if you want to. If you're tired of dealing with him,
you can stay and guard the base.
Right. Like, he's not that annoying, but he's a little annoying. So if you want to send him back, you can. But then you don't have him there to open up some of these doors and decipher some of the glyphs and stuff. So I just kept him around. At least I have so far. I haven't sent him back to camp yet. But again, also the combat system is unique. Even though it feels a little clunky and slow and a little awkward, like, I can't think of... Eternal Darkness comes to mind, where you can target, like, specific body parts.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there aren't a lot of games that let you play that way.
Oh, what was that game?
And it broke Eternal Darkness.
What was that? What was that game? Was it Digital Extremes that made it? It was like a sword fight. Die by the Sword. That's what you could target. It was like a medieval combat game. You could target.
I do remember now.
And cut their arms.
It was also pretty gory for the time. Yeah, I do remember that. Like Eternal Darkness, I figured out after a while, you just walk into a room and just behead every enemy. And they just walk around aimless, and you can take your time.
Unless you were playing Zelatoth.
Right.
The green one, the enemies can see without their heads.
Right, that's right. Yep. So, I can't believe you remember that still.
I've played Eternal Darkness a lot. That was one of my favorite games on the GameCube.
Classic, yeah.
I wish they would remaster it.
I just read my review on GameSpot for that game like a few weeks ago. I don't know why. I was looking up something about it, and I just stumbled across the review. And it was one of my worst written reviews, actually. I could also tell that Greg Kasavin had heavily edited it. Because he uses certain words, and he always did in his scripts, and I saw the words that he used in the script, and I was like, man, he really was heavy-handed on this one, but I was not...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wrote that one for Tech TV.
Did you?
I think I gave it a 5. Like,
I gave it a 9.7.
I love that
out
game.
of 10. At the time, it was freaking amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I went back and read it, and I was not impressed with my writing. I was like, ugh. But then I read other stuff I wrote on GameSpot, and I was very happy with it. So anyway, I just had an off week, I guess, that week.
Yeah, I don't know. Every once
in a while,
you do okay sometimes.
Yeah.
I remember back when I first started, I wrote the review of Eco, I remember. And I remember the associate producer that she's a PA that did the video review of it, because I wasn't producing stuff yet. I was just writing the reviews for it. I remember she emailed me and said, "This is a really well written review." And she didn't care about games. It was just her job. But she was producing stuff, but like she didn't care about any of that. And she's like, "This is really good." And I'm like, "Oh, that's very nice."
I'm still friends with the copy editor from GameSpot.
Yeah.
He still wishes me happy birthday on Facebook because I had a journalism degree. And nobody else did. And so he loved getting my scripts because he's like, oh, like the grammar and the spelling are all great. Like, he's like, I can get through yours in like 20 minutes. And then like somebody, I'm not going to name any names, but other people who were working at GameSpot at the time would just send in crap. And he'd basically have to write the review for him, what it came down to. I mean, I'm familiar with that. I was a reviews editor for years and years. Like, I know what that's like.
Yeah, we didn't really have anyone like that at Tech TV before you came in. Like when we had Ray, who kind of looked at stuff, but basically we were on our own for the most part.
Yeah.
Did you know Sonia? Were you there? Yeah, you remember Sonia. That was her. She did it.
I met her twice.
A couple times. Yeah, she was on her way out. But she was fascinating because she was like a poet and like all this. Like she was a real artist beyond like
it
what we're
adds
doing.
something to your scripts.
But I do remember she didn't really care about games. She was just that's where she ended up. That was the show she ended up. But I do remember we a lot of times when big games would come in, we'd gather in the game lab to see them or start them up the first time. I remember we got the first Kingdom Hearts in, and we loaded it up, and they did the big openings, the big track mode cutscene with the music and he's running through all the worlds. It's like basically like a trailer, right?
Yeah.
And we finished that, and we're like, oh, let's go look around. And Sonia was crying because she loved Disney so much, and it made her cry. She's like, oh my God, they're all there, and I'm just like, she loved it. Like it was just
That's
like
adorable.
It was just one of those moments where that was like that era where you're starting to realize how much games could affect people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, look at that.
Wow, that's power.
Like on one hand, we're like, oh, are you okay? But on the other hand, I'm just like,
wow,
this means something. This is important. And when she left the show, we gave her a PS2 with Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, really?
To take with her.
Oh, that's awesome.
So she could have it.
That's really cool. So yeah, there you go. that is Blades of Fire. Let's check in with you guys and see what y'all are saying. I don't know if any of you guys have been playing it, because there is a demo out there, I should add. There's a demo, and apparently that demo is like gigantic from what I read online. 505 sent me review code, so I've been playing.
Sounds like there's enough game to go around for the demo to be that big. So.
Also, in the email that 505...
Can you continue the save?
Yes, okay. That's what I was about to say.
That's a very important
Yep,
part.
in the email that 505 sent me, they said, hey, if you've been playing the demo already, your save will actually work in the final version, but I had not played the demo, so I didn't have to check it, but I'm assuming it works okay. J. Reed Vic 7, thank you for Twitch Prime. Swanland says the insanity meter in Eternal Darkness is no longer patented. Yeah, the patent ran out, but nobody... Is anyone going to use it? Probably not.
Who makes stuff like that anymore?
Nobody, sadly, makes innovative stuff like that anymore. Retro Modern Gamer says, I don't know if you watch No Clips, other YouTube channel, but they said they're going to try covering smaller games that don't get coverage to make smaller games more known. That's great. I hope it works out for them financially, because, I mean, look, we can see it from you guys. Like, if we do an episode of GameFace, this episode, that doesn't have a marquee big game for the thumbnail that you guys all know, the views would go down. You guys... I don't know if maybe you don't watch it and maybe you just listen to those episodes instead of watching them. I don't know, because I don't get specific download numbers from you guys for our podcast, unfortunately. But I can see in our video views for that episode that you guys watched, those views go down. So it's everybody. That's just
put
the way
GTA 6 in all the thumbnails. Who cares?
Seriously. I mean,
I'm sure we mentioned it sometime.
I mean, we do pretty much every episode, but I mean, that's kind of where we're at, honestly. I hate to say it. Like, I don't even know right now what I'm going to put in the thumbnail for this episode. Seriously. Because if I put either of the two games we review, people will be like, what the hell is that? They won't watch it. So it's a challenge. Like, you guys just don't care about smaller games. I would argue our audience does care about it a lot more than most.
We're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2 later in the lightning round. You put that in.
Yeah. There we go.
With the zombies.
Or just put the Rockstar logo up in the thumbnail or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad that they're doing that, though. That they're trying to help out in that way. Emperor Dread says, make Luna the thumbnail.
People click on cats. It's true.
Swanland says, it's one of those things that's perfectly cromulent. I like that word, cromulent.
It's a perfectly cromulent word.
Yeah.
Just like embiggened.
Yep. Ethan says, people are still playing Oblivion and Expedition 33 and maybe Doom. Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's definitely...
plenty to play, even if nothing's coming out this month, really. But
yeah. Swanland says, Comet gets even more involved with the runes for weapons. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. It's actually a part of the game that I did not mention. So you have
you mentioned the magic being involved later.
Yeah, but you also have these medallions that you get that have like 4 slots on them, and you find these gems out in the world. And once you get 4, it will increase your overall health. Once you get 4, it will increase your overall stamina. You also get these little scrolls that you can use to upgrade a very small skill tree. So there is a skill tree in the game, but it's very small and very limited. And again, that's why I struggle to call it an RPG. But you're right, Swanland. Yeah, it does get a little bit more involved with the runes because at first, the outline around enemies is uniform. It's all green, it's all red, it's all yellow. As you get further into the game, specific body parts change colors. And I will say this, I don't feel like I really had to use the exact weapon or the exact location that I needed. Like I said, right or left arms, the same. It doesn't really matter. But there is a little bit more depth to it, so thank you for bringing that up, Swanland, so I can talk about it a little bit. What else we got here? Swanland, I fought the mini-bosses the same way, surprisingly easy. Yep, you can just patient them out, basically. Noxatornitis, I'm absolutely shocked you're enjoying this game, but that's cool. Why? I mean, it's an easier...
Stamina bar.
Yeah, and it does piss me off sometimes, for sure, man.
One thing that's important, if you look at the footage, he's constantly out of stamina, but it's still letting him attack.
Yeah.
That's kind of the key.
But it does, like, a third of the damage that you normally do. Like, it is really awesome once you start to get the timing down. Like, I have, like, a big hammer right now in the game, and it literally is a one-shot kill. But you have to get really good at timing it, because he does, like, a wind-up where he hitches and then pauses for a second, and then he swipes. And learning the exact amount of time that it takes to do that process is the key to the game using that weapon. But once you get it down, like, you just see people coming at you and you just time it, hitch, bam. As soon as they run into it, just literally, they explode into gibs. It is very satisfying. So, I mean, I don't know why you're surprised I like this, other than the fact that it's a Souls-like kind of. It's everything that I like in video games. And because it's an easier Souls-like, I'm more willing to keep trudging forward. And again, like, you don't die constantly in this. You can if you're not paying attention, but you're not constantly getting slaughtered. It's just like over and over and over again. And that's what really turns me off to Souls-likes generally. Minority Games, the AA game is back. It is. I mean, this is like 2 AA games we talked about today. Talked about a bunch of AA games last week. Claire Obscura is a AA game. Yeah. Like, there's a bunch of AA games that are Game of the Year contenders this year. Stolty69, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. See if you guys got anything else. Swallow says the worst part of the game is the loading times, especially when you have to enter and leave the forge. I didn't even notice. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, they're there, which is kind of surprising for a game like this in 2025. I'll give you that. But they aren't so long that they annoy me all that much. And I think that's it. Swanlin, I'm glad that you played it, though. I'm glad somebody in chat had also given it a go so we could kind of bounce off of each other the information that we gleaned from playing it. It's not on Steam, I think. Interesting. I wonder why. I guess it's an Epic Game Store exclusive?
Maybe. Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that, actually. Stamina recharges while you block. Yeah, so if you hold the L2 button, your character will do this thing where it's almost like He-Man, where he's like, I am the power, and it refills the stamina.
C-Note's right. You just got to put you won't believe. Yeah, you got to put you won't believe the game Shane's enjoying.
Seriously. And then I'll give it a try. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That is Blades of Fire. It's available for PC, PS5, Xbox Series. It is $60. It's not the $70, but it is the $60. And it is a gigantic game.
Game by Mercury Steam, not on Steam. Weird.
That is a little weird. I'll put it to you this way, and I hate to say this. I think some people may get pissed off when I say this. I enjoyed this game more than Metroid Dread.
Oh, that wouldn't be hard. I mean, I'm just looking at it, and I already like it more than Metroid Dread. I cannot emphasize how much I hate those Emmy sequences in Metroid Dread.
It ruined the game.
Like, the rest of the game is fine, but, like, those ruined
the game.
It really ruined it for me.
Yep. We've been on that same page
and
together for a while.
I finished Metroid Dread, but I hate those Emmy sequences.
Eth Demon says, Carrie Patel, the Avowed director, has left Obsidian for Netflix games where she will go to die. I'm assuming it's a girl.
Yeah, Carrie is a girl. My guess is and I think someone in chat said the same thing. It sounds like she wants to advance her title, and there was no more room in Obsidian to do that.
That makes sense. But
sometimes you got to go somewhere else, advance that title, and come back with that new title.
It's true, actually.
So
yeah, and I mean, if she does get that better title, even if Netflix games ends up being a disaster, she still has the title.
Right, and she still made Avowed.
Yeah,
and so I'm not worried about her.
Yeah, good luck to her. Yeah. But I mean, here's the thing.
I mean, at least Netflix games does actually occasionally put something out.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're basically winding a lot of that down, but
I'm wondering what she's going there to do.
I don't know.
Because also the games that they're making are generally smaller, indie-ish things.
Well, after Avowed, maybe you want something a little smaller in scope.
Maybe Netflix is... Because I did read that Netflix is unhappy with how its games division is going, so maybe this is the shift.
Yeah.
Bringing in someone from Obsidian who just made an amazing game, trying to maybe make some games with a bigger budget.
That could be. I think it's probably a combination of that and a career move, and maybe like stepping stone to greater things in the future. Hopefully, because I like Avowed a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's Blades of Fire. Would I recommend it for $60? I think if you're a big Souls-like fan who maybe wants something a little bit lighter, I think I would recommend it for that price. I think most people, though, I'd probably recommend it at like $40, $50, something like that. It is a gigantic game, and it is right on that AA line. Like, there are moments where this game looks as good as AAA games that I've played over the last couple of years. So I say this all the time. It seems like every episode of GameFace, the line is so blurry now between like the AA's and the AAA's and the quad A's. But yeah, it's so easy to make games that look really good now. It really is. Well, easier than it ever has been.
It seems like a good demo game. Like, just get the demo.
Yeah, go play the demo. According to things I read online, the demo, you can play it for hours and hours.
Well, somebody in the chat said it was 90 minutes.
It's 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just what I read online.
I mean, I imagine you wander around as much as you want.
Yeah. But I mean, you could... I don't know how they would stop the demo. Now that
I imagine it just stops at a certain story point.
Maybe. Yeah. But yeah, the demo apparently is pretty big. So... just download it. I think it's available on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series.
But not Steam.
But if you download that demo, that'll give you a good idea, I'm guessing, of whether you want to play it and pay for the full game or not. Jam Rain asked, did Avowed do well? I mean, on Game Pass.
I don't know how well it did.
We never really saw a lot of information about it.
In terms of, like, sales or whatever, I don't know. But, like, In terms of critical success, I'd say it's pretty well received. I mean, I have a hard time feeling like you play Avowed and you think the director of that game isn't worth hiring.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like regardless of sales.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quality game, a well-produced game. The craftsmanship
Some
there
of the best first-person RPG combat I've ever played.
I think it's the best.
Yeah.
I can't think of a game where it's better. I loved it, man. Having a pole and just circle strafing and just stabbing him in the head as I strafed around him. It felt so freaking good, man. So, yeah, I think it's the best first-person combat I've ever experienced, personally. So anyway, there you go. That is Blades of Fire. Next up, a game that Matt has played, but I have not, and that is Capcom Fighting Collection 2. It includes 8 different Capcom games.
I think so, yeah.
Matt, what do you think is the biggest game in this collection?
Oh, it's easily Capcom versus SNK 2.
Yeah.
No question.
And there are 2 Capcom versus SNK games in this?
Yep.
Okay.
1 and 2.
Okay.
So the more widely loved one is 2.
Yeah.
Which is
I spent a lot of money on that in the arcades.
Mark of the Millennium, aka Millionaire Fighting 2001. If you had it in the import Dreamcast version. But yeah, that is the big selling point. Is that the secondary big selling point is the Power Stone games are finally in a modern gameplay a way you can play them now.
Which you don't even like Power Stone.
I don't
right?
particularly like Power Stone. I like Power Stone 1. I was reminded playing this that I like Power Stone 1 a lot more than 2.
Yeah.
Because Power Stone 1 is a pretty straightforward arena fighter. I had forgotten that Power Stone 2 made like the stages get like environmental things that happen, and everybody has to basically run for their lives in the middle of that shit, and you're kind of fighting each other while you're running
away,
and like it's just a lot at once, and it doesn't really. I'm not into it.
There's really no other fighting game like Power Stone.
No,
still.
like it's a strange mix of like Bushido Blade and Spike Out and Smash Brothers, and like it's just everything at once.
It really is crazy.
And I don't find any of the characters particularly appealing.
No, I don't remember a single character from that franchise.
I can't name you. I mean, I recognize. I recognize the guy in the red pilot, World War I ace pilot outfit.
I don't know his name though.
No, I don't know who he is. No. So you've got Capcom vs SNK 1 and 2. You've got Power Stone 1 and 2. You have Capcom Fighting Evolution, or Fighting Jam, which is probably the worst fighting game Capcom has ever made.
Relive your dream match, man.
Also, the only fighting game that we had the arcade version of in the lobby of G4. It's strangely fitting that G4 had the worst Capcom fighting game in the lobby.
We had Soul Calibur 2 there for a while.
But worst Capcom game. We had Soul Calibur 2 was on the Dreamcast. They had an actual arcade machine of Fighting Evolution that Capcom gave them.
We had a Soul Calibur arcade machine at G4.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, we did.
When?
A long time. Yeah. In a cabinet.
Do not remember that.
Yeah, we had one.
Soul Calibur 1?
It's like the only arcade game I ever played there. I played like the Pac-Man cocktail thing
that
twice.
one's downstairs in the editing area.
Yeah.
But in that initial lobby, this was on the right side and the Fallout guy was on the other side.
Yeah.
And then eventually they replaced him with the Skyrim guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I mean, that game isn't very good. It's weird. Like they've mixed a bunch of weird things together, and it is the only one to have Red Earth characters in it. It's the only place you can play the giant T-Rex with the devil horns.
Right.
Because he's an unplayable
right there.
That guy. Yeah, Hauser is an unplayable boss in Red Earth, which was in the previous collection. So I don't know. It's interesting. And we got Plasma Sword, which is Star Gladiator 2.
I've never played this game.
It is fine. The Star Gladiator games are interesting in part. To me, it's interesting because the original Star Gladiator is the remnants of a pitch from Capcom to Lucasfilm to make a Star Wars fighting game.
Wow.
And they rejected it, so they just took everything they'd done and turned it into an original property, which is why the main guy has a lightsaber and the bad guy is a big armored dude with a giant lightsaber. Like you can tell in the first. This is the second game. The first game's not in this for some reason, but you can tell that in the first game, like, oh yeah, this is Chewbacca, this is Han Solo. It's a little harder to tell in the second one. They expanded it out. It's a fine kind of like early 3D fighting game. It is certainly not any Soul Calibur or Virtua Fighter, but it's its own thing. It's kind of chaos. It's nonsense. And they have Project Justice, which is Rival Schools 2, I believe, or maybe it's 3. I don't remember how many of those there
I think
are.
It's 2.
But I think it's 2. But it's Dreamcast era, and that one's works too. I mean, it's sad how forgotten the Rival Schools games are.
Yeah.
They were pretty good.
I mean,
for
a lot of
their
people may
time.
not even have ever heard it.
Maybe not. Maybe not. But yeah, the star of the show is definitely Capcom vs. SNK 2.
How is it?
It's great. Like, I mean, it's very much the same as the previous Fighting Collection and the Beat 'em Up Collection. This is some of the best like retro collection work anyone's ever done. Like
rollback
netcode. The interfaces, and I think they've updated the interface for the first collection to be like this too. You can just go into training mode, and you select training mode of the main menu, and you can just pick any of the games, and it'll just throw you into training mode from there.
Wow, that's cool.
And the training mode has hit boxes and hurt boxes. Like, you can look at anything. The online play, you can jump into any game from the online option. You do not have to go into the game and then pick online.
Go back out.
The online option just says pick a game, and you jump in. You can jump back out and switch the game to another game and jump into the online and that from there. You do not have to jump from game to game to game to game and pick the online mode.
Cool.
It's all very shortcutty, and it works really well.
Why do all Capcom's collections like this? Why are they always released for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch?
Because they still run on them.
Yeah.
That's it.
They're never for PS5 and Xbox Series. It's always interesting.
Well, there's no reason.
Because they'll work on those consoles anyway.
Yeah. There's no enhancement there.
Yeah, because they can't be upgraded.
No, and I will note there's a bunch of different display options. I will note that from what I played around with, and I think Maximilian Dude said the same thing. If you go in for the display options and you do set the display to the raster monitor display effect to type A or type 1, I'm not sure which one it is. It gives you a nice kind of CRT look to it, and then you set the graphics display to from normally set it to X2 times 2. That makes because these games, unlike the previous collection, have 3D elements in the background, and same with the Marvel collection. That was also
so there's some rendering going on.
So if you set it to times 2, it smooths out all the 3D elements in the backgrounds way more, including like Rival School or Project Justice and Plasma Sword look way better with the times 2. So I do recommend using that.
So it has more 3D elements as well.
Yeah, it just looks cleaner when you put that on. It's very noticeable, at least to me. The behind the scenes stuff, all the art and stuff is huge. Like
soundtrack stuff.
It's all in there. The soundtrack is a bonus thing you can get from I think an extra thing. It's an extra download, but that's all in there. There's a bunch of stuff in there I haven't seen before in English anyway. It's like probably part of like Japanese art books, but I don't have those. So it's all a lot of design docs, a lot of stuff like that's very also extra interesting.
They just threw everything in that they had.
Yeah, literally these collections. They, as far as I know, Capcom literally just pulls out every single piece of art and every kind of related thing they have. You can even look in the middle of the match. You can pull up. The original one sheet, like you can see down in the lower left there, the original instruction card sheets for these that were on the arcade machines.
Really?
And they're high enough resolution, you can just read them. And
wow,
see what's on there.
That's cool.
There's a lot of good stuff in here.
Yeah.
Again, these Capcom collections are the highest quality. I mean, the Fighting Collection 1, the Marvel Collection, and the Beat 'em Up Collection. If you like any of those games, just get them.
Yeah.
They are the best collections of those types I've ever seen. Capcom is putting so much time and love into these, and they are paying attention to what the community wants.
Well, it'll cost you more just to buy an old Dreamcast to play Power Stone.
And it won't look this good.
Right.
And there's some, there's probably some rough edges to be worked out. I mean, there's some people that are very upset that you can play. One of the things about Capcom vs. SNK 2 is the bosses are unlocked now. Their play. I was not true before.
Wait, you can use the bosses?
Really powerful bosses like Shin Akuma and something like not just like plain Akuma you could fight for, but there's like super powered Rugal, super powered Akuma. They're all available now, and there are some people who believe that you shouldn't be able to play those online.
Yeah, I mean,
but considering that Justin Wong is literally making people refund the game by playing his tier 4 Haomaru at people, because so the way if you've never played the Capcom vs. SNK games, the Capcom ones, and maybe because the SNK made one is available on its own on Steam, and a bunch of SNK v Capcom Chaos, SVC Chaos is that one, and I like that one because it's got a newly drawn sprite by SNK of the vampire from Darkstalkers.
Oh, that is a big deal.
Very cool.
I didn't know that.
They did new sprites.
Here's the hitboxes you were talking about.
They did new sprites for a couple of Capcom characters that hadn't had new sprites in like 15 years.
Wow.
And so the SNK one is worth having for that too.
Yeah.
So but there's a tier system. There's a ratio system in these Capcom versus SNK games, and the way it works is you can pick. In the first game, it's a little more structured because they're ratio 1, ratio 2, 3, and 4, and you can have your total on your team can be 4. So in the first Capcom versus SNK, you can pick 4 rank 1s, or you can pick 2 ratio 2s, or you can pick 1 ratio 2 character and 2 1s, or 1 3 and 1 1, or 1 4. The 4 tend to be the bosses.
Yeah.
Now in Capcom vs. SNK 2, you decide what ratio everything is.
Oh.
And ratio means basically means you get more health. The higher a ratio character is, they get more health and they do more damage and take less damage. Ratio 2 is basically a normal character. That is their standard mode. If you go down, I think they have like 80% health and take like 110% damage. If you go up to ratio 3, I think it's 117% damage and like 110% health or something like that. It's minor, but it matters.
Yeah,
you know?
It does matter.
And
that's several hits.
And so you get to choose. So I can pick 2 characters and make them both ratio 2. And so they're both normal.
Right.
It's just it's like playing a normal like Marvel vs. Capcom game.
Yeah.
Or I could pick a character's ratio. I can make them ratio 3. They're really powerful and have 1 ratio 1. Or I could have 4 ratio 1s and just swarm you.
Yeah.
But the thing that Justin Wong is doing is he's picking Haomaru from Samurai Showdown and he's making him ratio 4. So it's one character, super powered. He has no other characters on his team, and he's picking. There's 6 grooves: C, A, P, S, N, and K. And generally, it's agreed upon that the most powerful grooves in the game are P and K. And because of the custom combos, and K is the rage meter from Samurai Showdown. And basically, as you get hit, it goes up, and if it maxes out, suddenly you get a huge attack bonuses and defense bonuses. And you can do the super move, and it's super powerful. Haomaru already does crazy damage with his sword, so Wong is going in there as his online name Wazzler, and he's going in and just wrecking people with this super powered version of Haomaru. And there have been people who lost on stream and refunded the game because they felt so abused by Justin Wong as that, which I think is very funny.
That's great.
So that's kind of
there. They just showed all that. What you're just talking about.
So that's the drama of this right now. It's also very funny to me that you get an achievement for the first time you play, and the
B-roll's working out perfect. You talk about the 6 grooves right there.
The first time you play, and the first time you the other thing the K groove does is if you push forward. As soon as the instant you get hit, you do a parry. It's called a just defended, like in Street Fighter 3. But the trick is you get a tiny bit of life back.
Oh.
And like if you do that enough with a high it's a percentage of life back. And if you do it with a high health character, like a big brawler or a ratio 4 character, that adds up.
Wow.
Like you can.
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes you just need 1 pixel of health to survive a fight.
If you're good at it, you can add like another quarter of a health bar over the course of a match.
That's a huge advantage.
There's a lot of stuff to play with in here. The groove system has a lot of nuance that people don't necessarily recognize. And there's a bunch of videos on YouTube right now, like beginner guides, that will tell you how all those grooves, because it's not very self-evident when you play them. And in fact, I've been playing this game for like 20 years, and I watched a guide on all the grooves, and there's a thing that S groove does that I did not know.
Even
I didn't know that's what that was for. I thought that was just marking this other thing, and I think it was the dots. And I'm like, I thought they were just for the supers, but it turns out that they also mark a particular kind of like a rolling thing you can do. And there's a whole argument here with like, I guess there's these things in the original game called roll cancels, where you could cancel rolls are invincible. And I think this is the first one, the Capcom SK one. Rolls are invincible, so you're supposed to do the roll to get away from things. But you can do what's called a roll cancel, where if you do a special move like as part of the roll maneuver, you will cancel out of the roll and do the special move, but the special move will gain the roll's invincibility. So you can basically bust through fireballs with like E Honda's like charge moves and stuff. Can do that, and that was considered a pretty key element of the meta of the competitive scene. But the EO, so you may remember that game got what was called the easy operation version on the GameCube. EO, Capcom vs. SNK EO. That's what that was. That took roll canceling out because roll canceling was not intended to be a mechanic in the game. It was a glitch, basically. Yeah. And so the online version, I believe, in this is the EO. You cannot roll cancel the online play of this.
That probably makes more sense.
Which people are kind of like, we get it, but also it was fun. So previously, a couple things like that in the Marvel collection and the previous Fighting Collection, Capcom has like added those in as options later because people were like, we kind of missed the Zangief, we kind of missed that glitch, the Juggernaut glitch in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was the only thing that made Juggernaut competitive, and so they actually added it in as an option. So you might see some updates coming along here, and they have actually updated Fighting Collection 1 with a lot of the quality of life upgrades that are in this one too. So again, Not a whole lot to say other than, like, if you don't know these games, I don't know how much value this will have. It's more of a nostalgia trip and a history class.
Yeah.
But, like, these are really well presented. These are incredibly... There's a lot of care in this, which is nice to see after kind of the semi-disaster that was the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which was not amazing. Oh, I forgot, this also has Street Fighter Alpha 3 Up, which is a very obscure version of Street Fighter Alpha 3. It was an arcade release that barely got any distribution in the West. It was more common in Japan. And it's basically an arcade version of Street Fighter Alpha 3 that includes the exclusive characters and stuff from the console versions.
Oh, okay.
So it has the
they went back and retrofitted the arcade version. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
It's literally, the logo is Street Fighter Alpha 3 and then an arrow like angling up. It's literally called Street Fighter Alpha 3 Up.
Wow.
Or 03 Up in Japan.
So 8 games for $40 bucks. $5 a game.
Really
That's
good.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, you spend more than that trying to play them in a retro arcade.
Seriously, yeah.
And if you like Power Stone, this is the only option. This is the only game in town.
It's way cheaper than getting a Dreamcast.
I mean, again, it looks good. It plays well. It's right there. It's got tons of bonus material, and it's got online play. Like, what the hell else do you want?
And rollback netcode.
Yeah,
which is obviously
and it all works
for something like this. Is there anything more important?
No,
not really.
It all works really well.
Yeah.
I'm playing on PC. I didn't run into any cheaters that I could find really that I know.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not that great at these games, so maybe I was getting steamrolled by cheaters, but I would never know because I'm just like, nah, that seemed fair to me. I suck. That's fine.
That's funny. So Capcom Fighting Collection 2, $40, PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. But you can play those PS4 and Xbox One versions on PS5.
They're all fine.
So it's basically for everything.
Yeah, it just means you can put it on your external hard drive.
Right. Yeah. Instead of having to put it on your main.
Instead of using up all the space. Yeah.
Yep. All right. All right. Well, next up, you guys know what time it is. That's right. It's time for the Lightning Round News Roundup, where I throw a bunch of topics at Matt, and he pontificates on them for a minute or two, and I jump in here or there. This is the biggest lightning round we have ever done. We have like 10 stories, I think. Let me look at the time here. I think it's going to work out. We're actually a little bit earlier than normal when we start the lightning round, so I think it's all going to work out. But anyway, we have a handful of stories, although 2 handfuls in this week, and I just pitch them to Matt, and he gives us his take on them very quickly. A couple of these we almost could have had as normal topics in the show. We probably could have talked about them for a little bit longer. Drifter J has a question for you, though. Matt, did you listen to the remix soundtracks? They were pretty good for CVS 2.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah.
They're bonuses. They're not in the game. I don't know, or maybe they are in the game. I didn't look in the audio thing, but I know like you can get I listened to this remix soundtracks on YouTube.
They're in the game.
They're in the game.
Yeah. Okay. It's a big part of like the promotion for it. They've talked about them a bunch of times. Yeah.
I'm not actually a giant fan of the soundtracks of those games.
Yeah.
I don't remember those soundtracks very well.
And then Minority Games asks, could we get another Rival Schools?
Probably not.
No. I don't think so.
I think you're going to be lucky to keep getting Street Fighters at this point.
It's a Merrick D. What's going on? Your first time chatting. Welcome to GameFace. We're here every Tuesday.
Letting you know his new name is pronounced It's a Me.
It's a me, Derek D. Oh, so it's Derek D111 from SIFTD. All right. Well, that's your first time chat. Welcome aboard. And we'll try to remember it in the future. And he just subscribed with Twitch Prime at the same time. Thank you, Derek D. That's awesome, man. Okay, let's get into the lightning round. Our first story in the lightning round. We kind of hinted at this a little bit earlier, but Matt, Bungie has been busted again for plagiarism in Marathon. They used some art from an artist from Sweden. Is that correct?
I think that's right, yeah.
She had uploaded her portfolio to social media back in 2017, and they literally lifted her art. Not just like the style of her art.
Yeah, like at first it was like, okay, they took some style, they took some of the symbols and stuff, and then as the people dug more into it, it's like, oh no, like there's like in-jokes in her art that is in the game.
They literally
they lifted her entire portfolio.
They did.
Like the look of this game is stolen from her.
The entire look of the game.
The only unique and interesting thing about the game was stolen from another artist.
It's what's going to happen.
Allegedly,
right. We have to say allegedly right now, but
although Bungie admitted it,
right?
Like they basically said, "Oh, it was in some of our design docs, and the people used it didn't know." And that artist, I'm like, this was not one person. Yeah, there is no way this was just one person doing this.
Yeah,
like this was basically the whole. How did no one vet this?
Well, they say the guy that did it's no longer there.
Right, but no one fucking ran this shit through legal. No one. No one noted
What would legal do?
I don't know. I mean, at least it said like, hey, is this from someone else?
To be fair, I'm guessing the person who stole her art was like, nobody's ever going to know. Because it was like, she just posted it on social media in some random post and like...
Probably, but like
she was going to know.
Someone is always paying attention, Mr. Mulder.
You can't do this stuff.
And like, there was also like, and I have a theory on this. I have a weird theory on this one because people were noting that like, it's weird that like her art has Aleph. Like Aleph 1 in it because Aleph is, I mean, obviously Aleph is not just marathon. Aleph is an actual, Greek word and all that. But like Aleph is a word that means something in the marathon like lore. And so I wonder if whoever kind of set them on the path to stealing all this just was like Googling Aleph. Like Googling stuff from Marathon and found this. Right. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
And that would explain, because I don't even know, I'm sure she wasn't referencing Marathon when she said that, but it was like a weird coincidence that like, I'm looking for Aleph stuff that's related to Marathon and here's this thing. And like, it's amazing. It's just like, how do you move forward with this? So
Bungie's been busted for this several times. The last time was last year. When they got caught using a weapon that was based off fan art from one of their fans. That's as dumb as it gets. Yep. And then to do this, this was done 7 years ago, 8 years ago they stole this art. What does Bungie do now? What do? Do you pay the woman like a huge sum of money?
I mean, I guess you do something like that.
You work out a deal
and work out some kind of royalties thing.
Because otherwise you got to cancel the game.
Yeah. Or you got to rework the whole thing.
Yeah, you got to redo the art style.
And the art style is the only thing this game has going for it.
It is crazy.
And on top of that, you had Bungie people posting anonymously on Reddit, being like, "This game's been a disaster from the beginning."
Oh, I didn't see that.
And like, there was a one person who's, they claim to be, who knows for sure, but they're like, we were told early on that this was going to be very different than what the higher ups basically turned it into, and like they're basically saying. There is almost no connection to Marathon. We were being promised we were going to be able to make something as a follow-up and expand the lore and really make it like interesting and related to Marathon, and it is not. We don't have any of all the 4 aliens finished yet. Like basically, the thing is going to come in so hot that it's barely going to be recognizable as Marathon. even the minor things that they're using to like connect it up, and like it sounds like almost everyone in the trenches over there has just been like. They finally showed it internally like a couple months ago, and the whole thing was like 6 years, and this is all it is. Like that's all you got. It's like a bare bones extraction shooter.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Other than your art style,
like they said, it is in the Reddit. I can't remember the name of the Reddit or the name they used, but basically they're like everyone was shocked.
Yeah.
That this is all it is.
Yeah.
Because you work on a game and you just work on your own little piece of it. You don't necessarily know.
You never see the whole thing.
You don't see the whole thing until then.
And then you're like, wait a minute.
But it keeps reminding me of when people who were working on Anthem said that like we didn't know what it was until we saw the trailer.
Yeah, right.
At E3. Right. And I think someone in the chat even last week said that Marathon is going to be Bungie's Anthem. And I'm like,
except Anthem came out.
So Anthem did pretty well.
And it did. Yeah. It sold very well, actually. Not as well as EA had hoped, but it still sold like 6 or 7 million units. What are you going to do? You're just going to cancel this game. At this point, you need to work out something with the artist and pray to God that she will accept it.
Yeah, because she doesn't have to.
She doesn't have to. She'd be stupid not to.
Maybe.
Maybe she's already wealthy. I don't know her. Maybe she's already a crazy successful artist.
It doesn't sound like it.
Then take the money, man.
I would bargain a bit.
Oh yeah, you got him by the balls.
Oh, make sure Sony gets you set for life.
Like
here,
whatever they offer you, double it.
Yeah,
seriously.
At least
that's what I would do because you got him by the balls. Either they sign a deal with you, or 7 years of work is going down the toilet. So put the screws to him, man. They stole from you. This is crazy. That a company this big, that an artist at Bungie thought they could get away with this.
Very weird.
What the hell?
And like the fact that it's like the 4th time something like this has happened
at Bungie.
It's crazy.
It's awful.
I'll tell you what what's
going to happen to Bungie maybe is the bigger question.
That is the bigger question.
And screw Marathon. What's going to happen to Bungie?
And I guess given like general sentiment and kind of reaction to the beta, and like I'll tell you, man, like if you're going to give me like carte blanche to do whatever I want here, if you make me like the only competent Sony executive in the room, kill the game. Make a real marathon.
Make a real marathon.
Stop.
Man.
Just stop. Just shut it down, make it, because there's.
And then message.
I haven't seen a single person be particularly positive about this game. It's like, at the best, it's like, well, it's okay. I played the beta and it's pretty okay, but it's not really unique and it has nothing to do with Marathon. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, look, I love Marathon. I'm a Mac gamer from back in the day. I played these games when they came out. I thought they were the best shooters of the 90s. And, like, you know, that's why I was excited for Halo, because they'd made Marathon. I'm like, it went from Marathon to Halo. I'm like, well, the guys who made Marathon, they're going to make this thing? Awesome. I'm in. But, like, Marathon is not an IP that has any cachet with anyone. Like the number of people that have real fond memories of. I mean, it's well regarded, because even PC gamers at the time were like, "Oh, I wish I could play that Marathon thing. That looks pretty cool."
Yeah.
But like, does bringing the Marathon IP back really gain you anything?
No.
Like, I wouldn't think so.
No.
Even as someone who loves Marathon.
Yeah.
And then even when you do that, the little that it does gain you goes away, because people like me who like Marathon look at this and they're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. Even this stuff that you're seeing on the screen, where like the numbers and the little symbols, that's all her
too. Yeah.
This is all her. All that little stuff there with the 2850 81, that's all her art.
Yeah, and that aesthetic, I mean, obviously she didn't invent that aesthetic,
Right.
but like it all, like the literal numbers are from her
They're
work.
identical.
She put it, I mean, like I said before, she put in a visual reference to the Lost comic meme from Control-Alt-Delete.
Yeah.
And that's in here.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
It's crazy, man.
And like,
I mean, I see people in chat saying, like, just close Bungie, but PlayStation just spent, like,
$4 billion on it. You got to try to salvage something.
It's not that simple, man.
If you look on I saw it on Twitter. It's probably on. He probably maybe put it on it. This guy did a super deep dive thread of the history of this aesthetic and where it comes from, going back to like the 60s, and it's fascinating.
I bet.
Like
Yeah.
it's like a 17 post thread
Wow.
about all the different steps you get to that woman's art, and then from her to having it
Bungie
stolen to put it in this.
Marathon.
And like, it's really interesting. Like,
Yeah.
it's a very interesting journey, and it's a lot of stuff I didn't know about. So I do recommend kind of looking that up if you can find it. But like, what a disaster! What an
really
absolute
is.
disaster!
Shame on you, Bungie. Seriously, shame on you.
Yeah.
There should be some kinds of checks and balances at that company to ensure something like this never happens again.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it now.
And
They're going to put out a statement.
Are you telling me that this art style came from one guy who you don't have working for you anymore, and no one was like, I wonder what his influences
All the
are. I
other
wonder where he
artists
came up
that
with
have
this
worked
idea.
on this for
Like,
7 years, whenever, like, where'd this stuff come
yeah,
from?
no one was like, hey.
No one ever asked him?
Yeah, no one was
what
like,
was your
hey,
inspiration for this?
Where did we get this completely unique art style from? Just this one guy who doesn't work here anymore? Why doesn't he work here anymore? I was like, is anybody fucking home?
It's just a colossal F up.
Like, does that seem normal to you, or does it seem like
PlayStation's lawyers should be working on this stuff too. They're not completely innocent either.
I just hope she gets some kind of, ruthless pro bono American lawyer, and they just
bleed them for
rip them for everything.
Seriously, they have to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
They have to learn a lesson.
Stop stealing shit.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
For God's sake, they paid $4 billion for you. Why can't you make your own art?
All right, next up in the lightning round, some more bad news, unfortunately. There's a couple things around Switch 2 that was some bad news. The first one is that we've discovered or learned that Nintendo is not going to send out Switch 2 hardware for the press to review before June 5th when it launches.
Huh.
So,
are we doing a show on June the 5th that week?
Still figuring that out.
Yeah.
And I need to talk to you about that too and see how all that stuff fits in your calendar.
Because I'm just warning you, if the Switch shows up during the show, I'm going to go get it out of the sun.
I think that's fair. I think we'd accept that.
Want to talk about an unboxing coming in hot.
I mean, it's all going to be coming in hot. I mean, that's what's crazy. There's going to be no reviews of Switch 2 before people have to decide whether to go to a store and buy it.
Well, they won't be able to go to a store.
Well, that's
and buy
the other
it,
thing.
so.
They are saying now you can. That some stores are going to have units on launch day.
Believe that.
And I'm
when I
like,
see
dude,
it.
if you went to the GameStop to pre-order it, they told you exactly how many units they were getting. It literally would say on the door, 31 units, 16 of this one, 15 of the other one. Like, and now all of a sudden they're going to have units to sell on launch day? That doesn't add up either. But bottom line is, the first new Nintendo console in like 8 years, there are not going to be reviews of it and coverage of it before people have to go and buy it. It's crazy.
Well, we already bought it. I mean,
a lot of people have, but a lot of people haven't. So
I don't think you really need to worry about that until Christmas.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
that's when the casuals will try to pick it up.
Anyone who's buying a Switch 2 right now knows what they're getting.
It could be a total piece of crap and they wouldn't care.
Probably not.
Yep.
They're more upset about the $80 Mario Kart.
Well, they may be more upset about this next thing I'm about to mention. We also have discovered this week that Switch 2 will not have VRR, variable refresh rate, in docked mode.
Oops.
In the mode that everybody would assume it would have VRR.
That's the mode where you think it would do the most good, right?
Why is there VRR in handheld mode? Who cares?
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't matter in handheld mode.
Well, and also, it's weird that they just kind of announced that and we're like, our bad. And it's like, what? Wait.
That's what's been
happening.
happening.
How do you fuck that up?
That's what's been happening the last 2 weeks. Nintendo waiting after the hype of announcing the console to start sharing some of the more unflattering parts of it. Like we talked last week about how they're going to record your game chat conversation. Like, all this stuff is coming out now, and my guess is this is it. So this will give them a 2-3 week buffer from the last bad news before it launches on June 5th.
Unless.
Maybe there is more bad news, but my guess is this was probably the last bit of it. The crazy part about this is that Nintendo had it on its official website that Switch 2 would work with VRR in docked mode. How do you not know that?
I don't know.
Again, just idiotic dropping of the ball.
Translation error? I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, variable refresh rate, I'm sure some people are watching this right now saying, what the hell is that? Why does it matter? It basically allows you to run games at an uncapped frame rate, and it can fluctuate. Instead of having to lock a game at 30 or 60, VRR allows the game engine to just run it however it can. And in a lot of cases, that's the best option.
Yeah, Retro Modern Gamer says it's a hardware fuck up. So basically, they have an old HDMI standard in the dock, and that hardware standard does not support VRR, so it can't do it.
All it needs is an HDMI 2.1 port.
That's a fine reason to sell us a $200 dock later, right?
Well, I don't know if you saw this morning, but Bloomberg is reporting that the Switch 2 OLED isn't all that far away. Like, it could be coming within a year of the launch of the original Switch, too.
Well, luckily, I don't care about that. So.
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to use that screen.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair...
Any Switch I buy is an OLED screen. Switch.
That's a good point. So anyway, just some more caveats about Switch 2 that are slowly starting to leak out now that its release date is growing close and near. I finally got an email from Nintendo about a pre-order, but it wasn't to pre-order it. It's like telling me that I'm in line.
Oh, just stay in line.
Yeah.
Stay alive and I will find you.
I literally signed up like 2 hours after the things went on, and they still haven't sent me anything to order one. They sent me an email saying I'm in line, and I may get an email in the near future.
Vincent also notes another piece of bad news could be that the backwards compatibility list is not flattering.
Right.
Which it is.
Yeah, that's starting to get ugly too.
Wow. Like the upgrade list is just garbage.
And especially if you talk about the free upgrade list.
And I think that's the list he's talking about. And like, why do not look what you're doing to my grammar, Nintendo. Why do not all of them have frame rate better?
That's actually correct. What? Because you're just contracting.
I'm not saying don't. Why don't all of them have better? Yeah, but why do not all of them have frame rate the better?
Yeah.
Like a bunch of, the Pokemon, everyone's very excited about Pokemon having better frame rate, sure. But where's my fucking Xenoblade?
I know.
They're not even mentioned.
I know. They're trying to get all the bad news out when no one's paying attention. And
I will give you $10 for a high frame rate Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I will do that. I'm that dumb.
I would pay an extra $5 for an HDMI 2.1 port on the dock so we get it VRR.
Well, there's also there's no frame rate boost mention about Echoes of Wisdom, which is bonkers to me because that game chugs. So my only guess is maybe it's because it's unlocked frame rate. It doesn't matter. It'll just run that fast anyway.
Maybe. Yeah.
But that game, when I played that game, I'm like, oh, this is definitely going to be better on the Switch too.
Yeah, I hoped it was.
Because it's really chugging in places. But if it's unlocked frame rate, maybe it'll automatically benefit from it. You don't need that. I don't know.
Well, again, you're only getting unlocked frame rate on handheld mode. You're not going to get it in docked mode.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have no idea. But anyway, more bad news for Switch 2. Again, it's just 3 weeks away. Now Nintendo has bumped up its estimates. It thinks it's going to be able to sell 20 million before end of fiscal, which is the end of March of next year. 20 million in 10 months?
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
I mean, you're really just limited by how many you can make, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, in the old lightning round, we got some bad news about PlayStation 5 as well. There's really not any good news anymore, Matt. It's just all bad news.
Sony's having a hard time until Death Stranding comes out,
It really is. And the news coming out of the Sony
Hopefully
camp,
Death Stranding doesn't like set PlayStations on fire or something at this rate.
Yeah. Well, the news coming out of PlayStation camp right now is that it reported that it is about to lose $700 million due to Trump's tariffs.
Business.
You realize that 1,000 million is a billion. Mm-hmm. So they're 300 million short of losing $1 billion because of Trump's tariffs. And because of that, Sony is just greasing the wheels right now that it is going to increase the price again. Mm-hmm. A third price increase for PlayStation 5 could be imminent.
I'm sure it'll go right back down when the tariffs are done. Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. What a disaster.
It's so weird that like the PlayStation 5 keeps going up, right? Like it's like what did you make? Like, and how do you justify a 6 at this rate?
Mellow Pentor says, I remember making the argument to friends that gaming isn't that expensive compared to other media hobbies. Look at me now. Seriously. Yeah.
I mean, you can definitely make the argument that it's been underpriced software-wise for a long time and it's starting to catch up. But hardware-wise, I feel like we've been paying about what these things are worth for a long time. And you're hitting a point where I'm like, you know, I saw last week there was a bundle. GameStop had a bundle. It was $350 for a PlayStation 5 and Astro Bot, and it went in seconds.
Yeah,
because that's a pretty good deal at this point. And it's just like I don't know how much more. I mean, $700 is an insane price for the PlayStation 5 Pro already. I am still annoyed I paid that for that thing. But what choice? What choice do you have?
Well, Evil Oni brings up a good point. It's not like there's another system that's competing that can force them to keep the price down. Yeah. And Microsoft
already raised
their
stuff anyway. So yeah,
it's just a disaster. It is a disaster.
Well, yes. Well, you buy a Switch 2 for the low price of $450 for $50,000.
Here's the thing: like we have figured out what these tariffs are doing before everybody else. Like everybody else who's like just goes and buys groceries or whatever, they're like, well, yeah, groceries are expensive. They're in it like, what is it going to be, like 40 days or whatever? They're going to get hit, and they're going to finally see.
Well, you're already hitting, like, Walmart's raising prices because of the tariffs at this point.
Yeah, and Trump's like, just eat it.
Just eat it. No. It's like, but I was told that the other country pays those, not Walmart.
What are they eating? The other country's paying the money.
China's over there innovating in robotic tech and biotech and medical tech and all this shit, and we're over here arguing whether, like, The Handmaid's Tale should be law or not.
Dude.
And, like, we were behind, but now that's it. The 21st century is China's.
It's like, eat the tariffs. You can't eat the tariffs. That's your whole profit margin. Your company no longer exists if you eat the tariffs.
Yeah.
That's where you make money. The tariffs are 35%. That's a gigantic profit margin. Most products don't have a 35% profit margin. They're actually losing money. All right, let's move on to the next topic in our lightning round. Matt, I think Doom the Dark Ages might be bombing.
Yeah?
Do you think it is? It has the lowest, and this isn't a crazy accurate metric, but of the 3 reboots, 2016, Doom Eternal, and this game, it is by far the lowest count on Steam as far as concurrent players and things like that.
But the others were in Game Pass, though.
Right. Again, that's a loosey-goosey metric that I don't want to rely on, but it does not, at the very least, it does not look like Doom the Dark Ages is going to be a gigantic hit. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I mean, it might be if we're talking about number of people who played it. Like if you're talking about Game Pass, but I don't know how to gauge that anymore.
Right. It's like but anytime you talk about Microsoft's games, the metrics are hard to discuss because you don't know what's going on in Game Pass.
I mean, you're just grasping at shadows at that point.
I mean, we know that at this point, less people have probably played the Dark Ages. Although maybe not. Maybe they're all playing it on Game Pass.
It's hard to say. I mean, Squishy Muffin points out AC Shadows has a lower player count than Odyssey on Steam as well, but they just announced that it has outsold Odyssey. So it's very hard to tell now. There's so many different places to buy these things, and it's all scattered. So it's very hard to tell unless the actual company announces anything. And Microsoft doesn't fucking tell us anything.
Yeah.
So.
And even when you get MPD numbers, it's like they don't include digital.
No.
So they're again just like roughly
and increasingly.
Things.
It's irrelevant. Like if you're just getting NPD numbers for like Capcom games, they said 90% of their sales are digital now. So what does that even tell you?
Right.
Like we don't have any accurate way to track any of this anymore.
Not especially with Microsoft and Xbox first-party games. Like, we really don't.
And like, we're not going to know whether this stuff is hitting the targets or doing what Microsoft wants it to do until Microsoft either announces that they're thrilled with this or they shut id down. You know, like, we don't know.
Or
like,
3 years from now when we don't get another Doom.
Yeah.
Or id's like, hey, our next game is this other thing. And then you know as well that this game did not sell well. I'd have no idea why it wouldn't sell. It's great.
Yeah.
To me, it's a little different, but it's just as good as 2016 and just as good as Eternal. So
my only thing would be, like, I guess I haven't really seen a lot of advertising for it outside of the normal areas. Like, I haven't seen it on a bus or anything like that.
Well, the other problem is that the NBA and NHL playoffs are winding down right now.
Yeah.
And so there aren't even a lot of games for them to market this game on.
I guess the good news is that this game is pretty evergreen. Like, you're not going to have a time when people don't want to play. You know, there's no online play to run out of Steam. There's no and like that. You could do a big remarketing campaign around Halloween for this and probably get some traction with it.
Yeah.
It's not like a whole lot of other stuff like it is coming out in the late part of the year.
Yeah. I was surprised though to see that. I really thought we'd start seeing reports of, man, it's ripping through blah blah blah, it's killing it on Steam and all this, but we have not seen any of that.
I mean, why would you buy it for $100 on Steam? You just play it on Game Pass.
We say that about every game though, and a lot of people just won't go to Game Pass. It's kind of funny, honestly. Some people, it's almost like on principle. They're just like, I don't care how good a deal it is, I'm not going over there. Like,
but it seems to do that. I mean, anything that's on Game Pass does have a lower player count for the most part. It does impact it.
It does seem that way. Yep. If you're looking for things that can continue to match up, that does continue to match up for sure. Yep. So we'll see, but as of right now, it does not look like Doom: The Dark Ages is doing all that great.
Or maybe it is. Like, who knows? Again, we don't really know what Microsoft wants.
And what do they even consider a success?
Yeah. What is a success?
What is a success anymore? We don't know. Yeah. So anyway, next up in the lightning round, I think another franchise that maybe isn't doing as good as maybe we had hoped is Mortal Kombat, because rumblings are starting to come out that the next game from NetherRealm is going to be Injustice 3.
Shutting down support of MK1 after a year and 8 months? Yeah, when they said they had years of content planned? Yeah, something changed there.
Yeah, meaning I don't think a lot of people bought MK1, and I don't think a lot of people continue to support the DLC.
No, the competitive scene petered out pretty quick.
Was it at EVO Japan?
No,
last weekend?
Not that I saw.
Okay.
I mean,
that's a bad sign.
Not that Mortal Kombat has ever been particularly relevant in Japan, so that's hard to gauge.
Actually could be why. But, I mean, if you go back and try to find sales numbers for Mortal Kombat 1, they haven't been put out all that often. No. And 2, the ones that have been put out are not killing it. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what's up with that. But what do you think is a smarter move for them, Matt? Is it smarter for them to work on Injustice next or Mortal Kombat?
I don't know. I mean, I guess Mortal Kombat could use a break. I don't know how wise Injustice 3 is at this point. You could always make something else. I don't know.
That's not going to happen in NetherRealm, though.
No.
I mean, it's one or the other.
There's always a fighting. Why don't you do a fighting? I mean, the guest characters seem to be popular. Why don't you do a fighting game that's just all guest?
Just
characters?
all that actually could be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me, Injustice should probably sell better.
Probably.
Because you have casual players know who Superman and Batman is. They don't know who, like, Sub-Zero is.
I think part of the problem... I mean, people know who Sub-Zero is. Like, everyone knows Sub-Zero and
my sisters don't know who Sub-Zero is.
Everyone knows Sub-Zero
But they know who Wonder Woman is and Batman is.
The problem is that Injustice 3 is not going to tonally match up with what DC is going to be by then.
Right.
Because I'll tell you this much. That Superman movie coming in a month and a half is going to change everything.
You think so?
I think it's bright and comic-y.
It is,
and all.
yeah.
It's like it's gonna be Superman.
Yeah.
Like fucking that shit's gonna be back.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be like it's gonna be the first. I think it's gonna be the first good Superman movie in 45 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone needs to see another evil Superman thing for a long
ever.
Time. And that's what this is,
Yeah.
And again, I think Injustice is a very good story. If you read the comics that are based on it, it's actually probably the best alternate universe story DC's told since The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's very well written. It did a ton for Harley Quinn's character. Like, just it informed how Harley Quinn is portrayed in mainstream continuity to this day. The Injustice comics are really worth reading. There's a lot of badass moments. There's a lot of cool ideas. There's a lot of interesting thoughts about like what it means to be like a moral superhero and what it would do to someone and what side you're on and what side each different character ends up on. It's just like it just feels like such a mid 2000s edgelord idea to continue it again this long after the fact? Like, what else is left to do?
Yeah.
Would be kind of my question there.
I just think on a base level, the DC characters just way more recognizable.
They are. I would just argue that I think you would, and maybe they are. We don't obviously. Injustice 3 might just be what some leaker is terming the DC project they're working on as an assumption.
That could be, yeah.
I would say you would probably do better if you were just doing a DC fighter of some other stripe, or a DC Cinematic Universe fighter,
and have DC in the name.
Yeah, just like it doesn't have to be the dark evil Superman timeline. It could just be DC,
right? Just the superheroes. Yeah,
and like whatever stripe you want to make it. It's also kind of an interesting question of like, why is there no MCU fighting game?
Right. Yeah.
Because Capcom doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Basically, is the answer to that.
But it should.
But like, it's just like, why you just do that? Would be something.
The licensing at this point would be a nightmare. You have to pay so much for it.
No, the fighting game license for Marvel is with Capcom.
Yeah.
Like for now.
That's true. Wait, they still have the license right now to make new products?
They would have to if they put out that collection.
Yeah.
Because that's still a new product.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a new SKU. So yeah, you're right. So anyway, what would you personally prefer, more MK or more Injustice? I
mean, probably more Injustice, just because I prefer the DC characters to Mortal Kombat. And Mortal Kombat's kind of been done to death at this point, no pun intended. I mean, I really liked the Mortal Kombat 9 reboot of everything and kind of that new continuity and how they did that. And then they did it again for this one, and I didn't think the new version of the universe was very interesting. I didn't think the assist character thing was very good. I didn't finish the story. It's the first NetherRealms game of the modern era that I did not finish the story mode.
Wow.
Because I just didn't really care.
Yeah, I actually kind of like the story mode.
I didn't grab me. Everyone was in different places, and I didn't really feel all that interested in why they were there or what they were doing with it anymore, especially because, and I don't get multiverse fatigue very easily, but it really felt like, well, who fucking cares, because you're just going to reboot it again later anyway.
I'll say I didn't play it much after I finished it.
Yeah.
I played it maybe like a week afterwards.
Whereas like a lot of the other Mortal Kombats, and certainly the two Injustices, I felt like I would just watch these as like, direct-to-DVD animated movies. Like, these are really interesting in and of themselves.
Yep.
I just didn't get that from MK1.
Okay. Next up in the lightning round, Neil Druckmann. Man, this guy's done more interviews in the last 2 months than he has done in his entire career, Matt. I mean, it really does show you maybe how more passionate he is about making films and TV than he is about games.
This is what he really wants to do.
Because it's like, dude, when he's making games, you get like one interview in like 5 years. Now that he's working on a TV show, he went on the Press X to Continue podcast. And look, I'm not slagging them at all. I'm just saying, it's Neil Druckmann. And he went on a small podcast that I've never heard of before, which is awesome, but he would never do that for one of his video games. He just wouldn't. And so he went on Press X to Continue, and he shared with them that, in fact, there is a second Naughty Dog game in development right the frick now. What do you think it is, Matt?
I mean, my guess would be it is probably what that fantasy art, concept art we saw before, whatever that became.
Do you think they would do two new IP right in a row? That seems awful risky.
I think they would.
Yeah?
Because if there's a Last of Us 3, it's a long way away.
Yeah.
Long way away.
Or is it? Do you know?
Pretty sure.
Yeah. Why would you say that?
Because I don't see how he could focus on that while he's writing and directing this show.
Yeah. The other thing he talked about in the interview was how he is becoming the executive in the room now.
And remember, Mazin just said this week that he thinks they're going to need a season 4 to finish the
We knew that already, though, that there was 4 seasons.
Well, no, he said 2 and 3 before.
No, before this season started, I knew there was going to be 4.
It's only recently he's been saying that we're going to need a 4.
Well, now that this season is wrapping up, it's easy to get to 4. Like this, now it turns out this whole season was just about Joel. What happens to Joel?
Yeah,
that's it.
Really didn't go any further.
That's all it is.
Well, it's funny that like early on, people were like, "Oh, Joel's gonna get killed at the end of the season," and I'm like, "No, it's gonna happen in like the second episode."
Yeah.
I just thought that my expectation was that this season would end with the transition in the game would have been the transition to playing as Abby. It seems like they're barely going to get into Seattle very far at this point. Also, the fact that I'm not caught up. I'm only like halfway through episode 3, but like I know, the rough arc of what happens from reading various things, social media and such. The fact that they did the porch scene this week, I don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore. Because that scene is in the last 5 minutes of the game, and it's there for a very, very, very good reason. And it's kind of the heart of the entire crux of the storyline and the character motivations. And I'm like, what are you doing?
I
don't know what they're doing anymore, structurally or
I'll say this: if
thematically.
you do watch the show, and I know you're a couple episodes behind, it makes sense in the context of the show. But you're right,
but
it's way out of line.
It makes sense in the because one of the things that has been bugging me about the show this season that wasn't present in the first season, I don't think. I just feel like they're treating me like I'm dumb.
Yeah.
In a way the first season didn't.
Yeah.
And like it feels like everybody's just sort of very plainly stating what's happening a little too nakedly. And I don't understand where that's like. It feels like the only reason I would put that porch scene earlier is so that people don't spend 2 years wondering why this certain part of the character's motivation is happening.
Right.
And I'm like, but that reveal is the whole gut punch of the final 5 minutes of the story. So what is the final 5 minutes of the story now?
My bigger question is what they're going to do in next week's episode. It feels like this episode should have been kind of like the season ender, because you're right, the revelations that happen there are like earth-shattering, like in the context of the story. So I don't know what they're going to do next week. They kind of shot their load.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel just unhooked from it all.
Yeah.
Like I want to just go play the game again.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the game structurally, in terms of narrative, like nailed it. Mm-hmm. And I would really not try to deviate from that too much if I was adapting it to a show. And they've deviated from it in ways that I consider so vital to why the game story works that I'm like, well, I guess you must have a different idea, and I'm very curious what that is, but I'm also not really curious enough to commit myself to it right now. Yeah. I feel like I've hit a point with this show where I almost want to wait until it's done and people are saying like, oh no, they did it really well. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go back and watch all of it when I know that the ending is actually worthy.
Yeah.
But right now I'm sort of like, you have just taken two of my favorite things about how the story is told in the game and changed them and screwed with them. And one of those things is like I think that porch flashback placement in the game is one of the most powerful narrative reveals I have ever seen in a video game. Yeah. And I do not understand what you think you are.
A bunch of light bulbs go off.
Right. Yeah. The whole it recontextualizes the entire thing you've just seen.
You start thinking back, like, oh
shit.
Oh.
Yeah. And then playing the game again, knowing that, you're like, oh, this is a completely different experience.
It is. Yeah.
And I don't understand what their alternative to that is going to be. And I know I'm being vague and sort of nitpicky about it in that regard, but like it's just so weird.
It is. Yeah,
I don't know where
Neil gave him the green light.
I don't know where they're going with it, and I'm having a hard time believing where they're going is going to be better than what they already had to work with. Yeah. I guess that's the way I'd say.
Okay, I would be surprised if PlayStation allows Naughty Dog to put out 2 new IP in a row.
Maybe, but
that is so risky.
Maybe
Intergalactic's risky.
I don't think anything they do is risky.
Well, because they make great games.
I think anything Naughty Dog does is going to sell.
Probably.
Don't listen to the chuds. There's not enough of them to matter.
Are you telling me to not listen to the chuds?
Yeah, because that's the only reason to think Intergalactic is risky.
No, I don't think that at all. I think because the concept is risky, brand new IP is risky, sci-fi.
So was The Last of Us when it came out.
Zombie game, not so risky.
No, Last of Us was... everybody said it was a risk because they weren't making Uncharted 4 or Uncharted 5 or whatever the hell they were up to at that point.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they allow them to do 2 new IP.
I don't think he had time to write a Last of Us 3 yet. And I think you will get an announcement about The Last of Us 3 somewhere halfway through the final season of the show.
Oh, the one thing I was getting at earlier is that in that same interview with Press X to Continue, he mentions that he's become the executive in the room now. Mm-hmm. That he lets his teams do their thing. He checks in once a month, once every 2 months, and then comes in and tells them no. And they argue. Mm. And that's basically his role now. So he's not...
So he's Kojima, except that nobody argues with Kojima.
Pretty much. But anyway, we'll see. But it is good to hear that they do have another game in development, and Intergalactic is probably still a couple years away. But something else.
Neither of them will be on PS5.
You're probably right. You're probably right. Next up in the lightning round, I'm interested to see if you've resisted this, Matt, because I know you're a huge Star Wars fan. But there's this crazy stuff going on in Fortnite with Star Wars right now, where there's an AI Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. And so basically how it works is you find him in the game, you fight him, and if you kill him and defeat him, he joins you and is a part of your party. And then once he's a part of your party, you can just start talking to him. Mm. And he will reply as if he's AI, and it uses the AI version of James Earl Jones's voice. And Star Wars fans are all pissed off and blah, 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 because they're using AI or whatever. SAG-AFTRA filed a formal complaint over the AI Darth Vader in Fortnite, complaining that they should have hired a real human to do it instead of AI. To which I remind them that the real human is no longer with us.
Right.
So how do you think they should have handled this? Or should they have just not done it at all?
I think they should have just not done it at all.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think SAG-AFTRA really has a leg to stand on this one because James Earl Jones specifically gave written permission
for this to happen.
And I hope he set his family up for a couple generations with a payment for this.
Yep.
But basically, he gave Lucasfilm permission. You can use my voice use AI to recreate my voice for Darth Vader for as long as forever.
Yeah.
So this is within the parameters of what he agreed to.
Yeah.
And so there's not really a moral issue here.
No.
He said it's okay for them to do that. So they get. My issue is more like, we don't need Darth Vader talking about this shit. Like, because again,
he'll talk about anything. Yeah.
This is a tweet from Diddy Kong pointing at an unk.
Okay.
Fortnite added an AI Darth Vader using James Earl Jones' voice you can talk to through your mic. It's been out since this afternoon and has so far swore, said multiple slurs, threatened to kill someone in real life, said Pride Month is for the delusional, eliminated players on the same side as him for calling him daddy, said Spanish is a language used by smugglers, asked someone if they like Chun-Li's ass, and made a tier ranking list of races. I'm thinking James Earl Jones would not be thrilled about any of that.
No.
And I can't imagine Lucasfilm is super thrilled about any of that. And some of it, I admit, some of the clips of this are very funny.
They are, yeah.
Like, trying to teach basically a medieval knight from another world about, like, what Hawk Tuah means. That's very funny. I mean, again, it's very funny. Yeah. But aren't you diluting something here? Aren't you? Like, if I'm thinking about Darth Vader saying like twerking out loud in James Earl Jones's voice the next time I watch The Empire Strikes Back, haven't you damaged something in a way that making a bad Star Wars movie simply can't damage something? Yeah. Like, isn't that worse for the integrity of the character and what happens in Star Wars than, like, the fact that Rise of Skywalker sucks? Right. Like, isn't that a bigger problem in a way?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Taking those characters out of their context and putting them in Fortnite, like, as a skin is one thing. Yeah. But, like, having, like, because it's actually James Earl Jones-esque, it's like, I mean, that's partly why it's funny, is because it sounds so authentic.
That's exactly why it's funny.
But it's like, is that really what you want to do with your brand here? Is that what you want to do with that character?
They made a mistake giving the green light.
I don't think that's a good idea. I'm even to the point, like, the General Grievous came out, and one of the skins for that General Grievous is him in his Kalish form, before he was a cyborg. Mm-hmm. And it is, like, the best look we've ever gotten at pre-cyborg Grievous, and it's in Fortnite.
Right.
What are you doing?
Well, then there's like Jar Jar Vader.
Darth Jar Jar, which is, again, that's a fandom meme that Lucasfilm has leaned into.
Now it's in the game. Yeah.
That's fun. Yeah. I think that's fun. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's a problem with that. Mm-hmm. I think you want to lean into the ridiculous shit. That's what Fortnite's for. Yeah. Like, that's a lot. Him running around going like, Misa, kill you. Like, that's very funny.
It is funny.
That's the kind of funny I can get behind. Yeah. As opposed to what feels a little bit like character assassination of the probably the biggest villain in cinema. Yeah, really.
It is. All right, we got to get going. We can only fit one more story into our lightning round because we're already over time. And the last story for episode 434 is about Take-Two and Grand Theft Auto 6. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick went on CNBC a couple days ago, and they were grilling him over the delay of Grand Theft Auto 6 because he had gone on CNBC just a couple weeks earlier and promised to them that it would not be delayed. And so they were kind of busting his balls a little bit over it. And then ultimately it came out, he admitted that he never plays video games. Matt, is it okay for the CEO of one of the biggest video game publishers in the world to not play video games?
I mean, probably. I mean, it's not really part of the job. Like, maybe you want to understand marketing trends, but I guess it's in a way, it's sort of like being upset that the NFL commissioner doesn't play football. Yeah. Like, you can follow this shit without having to be an expert at it in terms of actually getting your hands in it.
I mean, we don't make video games, and we critique video games.
Yeah.
So if we would slag him for this, we'd kind of be slagging ourselves in some ways. So Yeah, I agree with you. It's not that big a deal. People were making a big deal about it, though. They're very angry.
I don't think you need to play Grand Theft Auto to market Grand Theft Auto.
No, definitely not. I agree with that. But a lot of people were pissed off about it, and I think people were just angry that the game was delayed, and they're just looking for a place to vent their anger, basically, at this point. Which I can kind of understand, because again, like the messaging from Take-Two was the game was on target. The game was on target until it wasn't. So, yeah.
Like, he ain't making no choices about how the game is.
No.
Creative choices. Like, he's just there to run the company.
He's just saying whatever Rockstar tells him to say.
Pretty much.
That's really what's happening here. And that's probably the smart way to handle it if you're Strauss Zelnick of Take-Two. Whatever Rockstar says, goes. So, there you go.
Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets.
Yep, that's it. So there you go. That's the lightning round for GameFace episode 434. And there's just one thing to do, and you know what that is. That's right. It's time for Name That Game Tune, brought to you by Soundwizardry.com. The wizards in audio, game audio, podcast audio, film audio, Foley work, whatever you're doing that has audio involved, they can help you. Go to Soundwizardry.com. They are working right now on some of the biggest games in the industry. They worked on Baldur's Gate 3. They worked on Alan Wake 2. They have worked on countless Game of the Year winners, Game of the Year contenders. If you have an audio project that you need help on, go to Soundwizardry.com. Glenn and crew over there, some of the best people you will ever interact with. You will not regret working with Sound Wizardry. Head on over there, and thanks to them and their generous support of GameFace, we do this fun little thing called Name That Game Tune, where I play 5 audio samples from a video game, and you try to name the game before this guy, and good luck, because this dude is on a tear. I am now at the point where I am like trying to craft them so you won't win. Just so you know. Like, I have shifted gears at this point to try to make sure Matt doesn't win. I'm trying to pick games that I don't think he's well versed in. We'll see how it goes, but man, you've won like 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 6 or something.
That may have 4, I think.
Yeah, you're on a crazy tear. A couple of things before we get going. The samples can be anything. It can be the soundtrack. It could be voiceover. It could be sound effects. Any of that stuff. They get more obvious as we go. So by the time we get to the 5th sample, hopefully everybody can get it. And before this guy as well. Also, you can only win once per calendar year, so if you've already won this year, do not play. Also, if you do not play PC games and you will not enjoy a free PC game code, do not play, because the winner gets a free PC code. We're cool with you giving it to a friend. That's no big deal. And then finally, chat is put into slow mode, which means you can only input one thing every 60 seconds. Don't try to spam the chat with game titles. You will lose, I promise. All right, Matt, let me get your headphones turned up here. Get you ready to go. I think that's good. Yeah. Are you ready to play Name That Game Tune?
Sure.
Are you guys ready to play Name That Game Tune? Here's the first sample. Oh, let me bring up the screen first. Here's the first sample in 3, 2, 1. I'll play it one more time. Castlevania Lords of Shadow, no. That would be very sneaky of me, Swanland. Any other guesses? Space Marine 2, no. Final Fantasy 16, no. Lords of Shadow 2, no. That's not it either. Wolfenstein The New Order, no. Hybrid Heaven 2 doesn't exist, no. Oblivion Level Up Sound, no. Immortals of Avium, no. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, no. Any other guesses? And you guys aren't supposed to get it on the first one, although you sometimes do. Company of Heroes 3, no. Starfield, no. Borderlands 2, no.
Yeah, if he's trying to pick games that I am not versed in, the one I've played 140 hours is probably not the one to pick.
Borderlands 2, no. Titanfall 2, no. Battlefield 2042, no. Any more guesses before I go on to the second one? Going once. Going twice. Okay, here we go to the second sample. And here it is in 3, 2, 1. Halo Combat Evolved. I'm only going to play that one once. That was a long one. Evil West, no. Avowed, no. Sniper Elite, no. Halo 2, nope.
I was going to guess Sniper Elite.
MGS4, no. 2 Evil Wests there. I wonder why. Interesting. Spec Ops: The Line, no. A Game with Guns, maybe. Rise of the Tomb Raider, no. Battlefield 1, no. The Last of Us 2, no. The Division 2, no. Looks like I need to send out... We hit the hype train. Choo-choo. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate that. Hunt Showdown, no. Any last guesses before we go to the third one? Vincent says Evil West was part of the humble choice. 50 Cent, Blood in the Sand. So close, Chillax Broseph. So close, but not
Ghost
quite.
Recon Wildlands.
Nope. Uncharted 4, no. Any last guesses? Going once. Going twice. Sold. All right, we're going on to the third one. Here it is in 3. Spear of Destiny, no. Overwatch, no. In 3, 2. The Saboteur, no. Any last guesses before I go on to the next one? Get them in. All right, I think that's it. The Saboteur, man. I haven't heard that title in a long time. All right, here it is in 3, 2, 1. Come on, people. You got to get it before Matt. You can't let Matt win again.
Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Nope.
You wouldn't pick another Ubisoft game.
Soma, no. We have a winner. Drifter J. It is Control. Awesome. Congratulations. That's freaking awesome. Matt, you finally didn't win.
I did play Control a lot. That was years ago.
Yeah. Congratulations, Drifter J. Thank God somebody got it. Mr. Starwalker got it from that too, but he was just a second behind Drifter J. Close, though. Very close. Here are the last 2 samples, just so you guys know that everything's legit. Here's number 4.
There you are. You are here about the job. Janitor's assistant.
And here's the last one.
It's the dead man.
All right. Awesome, Drifter J. Congratulations for winning. Just send us a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on SIFTD, where I'm at Shane. You know how to get at us. Just send me a message. Also, is Draylock still in the chat? Draylock, you still have not sent me any information. You were the last person to win, and I haven't heard from you. So I'm still waiting to get you your free game. So Draylock, if you're watching the archive or whatever, get in touch with me so I can get you your free game. And congratulations to Drifter J, man. Just get at me, and I'll get you your game out as soon as I can. Yeah, that's going to do it for GameFace 434. Big thanks to everybody in chat who showed up. We're here every Tuesday at twitch.tv/SIFTDgames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Join us live. It is awesome. Our chat is awesome. It is a good time. I promise you. If you want to support us, please head to patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. For just $4 a month, you get all our content mega early. If you can't help us there, you can help us with Twitch Prime. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can give us a free $2.50 every single month. You do have to re-up it every month. And I should say that this month, our Twitch Prime total went up for the first time in like 2 years. It went up instead of going down. We're still way down from where we used to be, but finally the losses have stopped. So thank you. What you're doing is making a difference. We appreciate it very much. Again, Amazon Prime subscribers, you can do that for free. $2.50. If you're watching on YouTube, go down below, figure out how to do that. If you have no money, no Amazon Prime, that's totally cool. Just like the show, comment on the show right now, like the show right now. Go on your social media feeds, say this is the best freaking video game podcast in the world. Share it with people. At least people will give it a listen, and then it's up to us to prove it to them whether it is the best or not. But give us that chance. Share it on social media. We'd really appreciate it. So that's going to do it for us. Matt, looking down the pike at next week, Elden Ring Night Rain? Will that be out by next week?
I thought that was like the 29th or something.
Yeah, I think it is the end of the month, so we'll see. But we put together a great show this week, like we do every week, and I think we'll be able to handle it next week as well. Vincent says Roguecraft and Fantasy Life I. Yeah, I put in a call for Roguecraft review code yesterday, so hopefully we'll both
I'll get to that Outlaws DLC, I guess.
All right, people. Thanks to chat. You guys are awesome. We love all you guys. We love anyone who supports us in any way. If you're watching the show for free and not doing anything, we still love you. We just need help, and we're just asking for it. That's all we can do, right? So anyway, have yourselves a great week filled with great games. GameFace is up and out.